these technical difficulties to start the show, things are going pretty well. Obviously, the Washington football team leaves something to be desired. We'll talk about that at 8. But other than that, I've been enjoying the NBA Finals, although it's not been quite as, I don't know. I wanted the Lakers to win. I did want it to be close. So I guess I did get what I wanted with 2-1. But it's always hard to watch your team lose. So, it's, even if you want the series to be close. So, but we'll definitely talk about that in the NBA roundtable in a little bit. But why don't we bring in Arun and Brian now, and we'll break down this baseball playoffs, and I will share this to a couple of different baseball groups.
Sounds good. Brian B, what's going on, man? I know you've been in baseball heaven lately. How's it going, man?
I'm doing well. I've been enjoying all this baseball over the last week or so. It's been pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm a little upset. I was back in class learning, training for my new job, and I didn't get a chance.
Congrats on the new job, by the way. Again, congrats.
Hey, thanks, Brian. If anybody's looking for a new or pre-owned certified vehicle, shameless plug, I'll let your boy CP through him now at Honda of Wardlaw. I'm going to give you the best deals possible. I got to put it out there. So any of the folks want to come down, holler at me, got to trade in. Just looking to cop a new ride. I'll holler at your boy. But Arun, how you doing tonight, man?
Not bad. I'm glad RG3 can still complete passes to Washington players.
I didn't know how soon you was going to go with it. Already. I took a wild show. I knew it was coming. I just didn't know it would be perfect. I thought it would be a little bit later. He come out throwing jabs already. Hey, man, I knew as soon as he got in the game, I said, yeah, everyone's going to have fun with it. All right, well, I'll let you guys take it away. I'll have some commentary in the background. I'll let you start breaking down some of these games because, like I said, I wasn't really able to pay close attention to the wild card round.
Right. So I'm going to start off since we have one fan who's really into one of the teams. I thought that would be a good place for us to start. So, Brian, if you could let all of our viewers know how the Yankees did in their wild card games.
Yeah, so the Yankees took on the Indians in the best-of-3 wild card series, and they won the first game pretty easily. Aaron Judge hit a 2-run home run in the first inning off Shane Bieber, who's probably going to win the Cy Young Award in the AL. And Yankees never looked back. They never trailed. Garrett Cole struck out 13. It was a pretty easy win in Game 1, and you started to feel good going into Game 2. And then Game 2 was just crazy. It started off with a rain delay, and then they started the game, and then the rain actually came, and it started to rain really hard, and that caused another rain delay. And then all told, after the first inning, the Yankees were down 4-0, but they fought back. Gio Urshela, who's been an incredible find by the GM, Brian Cashman, they got him for virtually nothing. He came up huge in this game with a grand slam and a huge defensive play in the bottom of the 8th inning to save the Yankees and give them a chance to come back in the 9th inning of this game. Really a wild, crazy back-and-forth game. The Yankees had a 2-run lead twice in this game, and they blew it. But ultimately, like I said, the Yankees had a great 9th inning comeback. They were able to rally off the Indians reliever, Brad Hand, and they scored 2 runs in the 9th to take the lead. And then finally, at 1:15 in the morning, the game finally ended. The Yankees moved on to the ALDS, where they will be taking on the Tampa Bay Rays tonight.
It's definitely going to be an interesting matchup with 2 AL East teams going at it, trying to get to the next round. Tampa shocked me because didn't they win the AL East, Brian?
Yes, they did. Tampa is the number 1 seed in the American League. They've been the best team all season, honestly.
Wow, that's interesting. In the short season, they would be
and for reference, they're 2-8. The Yankees are 2-8 against the Rays this season. So I think the Yankees are a great team. The Yankees went 2-8 against the Rays.
Yeah, interesting. And then the other thing that's unique is it's not a reseeded. So Brian and I were talking about this offline, that because of that, there's a lot of divisional matchups in the second round for a true divisional playoffs.
Yes.
The Central teams didn't do very well on either side of the bracket. The East and the West kind of dominated, and now it'll be a battles of the East and battles of the West to sort of play, to see which, side of the country does better in both the AL and NL for the championship game. So I think it's kind of setting up for some interesting storylines. Arun, did you see any of the Yankees series or any thoughts on the Rays?
Yeah, I saw the Yankees series. I saw a lot of the game too. That was like a crazy back and forth. Like the Indians scored the first 4 runs, and then the Yankees came back and took the lead. Then the Indians tied it, and it went all the way till October. It went all the way till midnight, and September ended. So it's kind of crazy. And then I don't know how the Yankee. I thought that game was going to go to extra innings just the way it was going, but it was already a super long game. And it was just like, I think the Yankees are probably, favored to win this, even though they're 2-8 against the Rays. I think they still should win, but who knows? Like Jared Cole pitched poorly in the regular season, but he was on fire in the postseason. So we'll see what happens. Though anything can happen.
Sure. So that's sort of one part of the bracket. Did you have any other thoughts on Tampa Bay, Brian, before I sort of moved on?
There's a lot of bad blood between the Yankees and Rays from this season. Earlier this year, Chapman threw up and in on Brosseau, and the Rays were heated about it. And their manager, Kevin Cash, who I think is a punk, made this statement, like, we've got a stable of guys who throw 98. Whatever. I hope the Yankees win in 3. I hate the Rays. I hope this series is a short one and the Yankees take care of business. That's all I got to say.
Right. And all these games are being played in San Diego, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Neutral site in San Diego.
Got it.
They're staying at the same team hotel, too. The other crazy thing, the Yankees and Rays are staying at the same hotel in San Diego.
Wow.
Might be a team fight, man.
Yeah. Good old-fashioned baseball.
Does all of the American League do it in San Diego, or does the other side play somewhere else?
No, I'm watching the A's-Astros game right now, and that's at Dodger Stadium in L.A.
Got it. Yeah.
So,
talking about Houston and the A's, Minnesota, obviously, the Twins can't get a win in a very, very long time, and that would continue unfortunately against Houston, since none of us really like Houston that much. So Brian, talk about that series a little bit.
Yeah, I was a little surprised, honestly, because the Astros had an under 500 record this season, and you wondered if everything that happened to them in the offseason with the cheating allegations, whether that was just going to affect them all season. But the Astros showed up to play in the postseason. They're one of the more experienced teams in this. They have a tainted World Series championship and another appearance in the World Series. So they have a lot of experience in this. And the Twins, I don't know. They just can't seem to win a game in the postseason. I was thinking because they're not playing the Yankees this time that they might be able to win at least a game. But it's 18 straight playoff losses is just crazy. I still can't believe that.
And for 2 of those to be at home, they just got swept at home. I thought they'd win at least one. That was crazy. So
yeah, definitely.
So the other side of that bracket, Arun, had the White Sox and the Athletics. What were your thoughts on that series?
Giolito and Gio were the former Nats for the White Sox. Giolito, he pitched a great game in Game 1, but ultimately it wasn't enough against the Athletics, and they're not really sure how to react. I don't remember the last time they won a playoff series. It was kind of crazy. And now they go against the Astros, who haven't. Dusty Baker hadn't won a playoff series in a while, even though it's the new playoff format. It's still pretty weird that the Astros won as a below 500 team, but maybe they have good postseason experiences going for them.
Yeah. Brian, any more thoughts on the Houston's opponent there in the Athletics?
Yeah, I've actually been watching a good portion of this Game 1. A lot of home runs have been hit. Maybe that's because they're playing at Dodger Stadium, and a lot of home runs are hit at Dodger Stadium, so I don't know. But I think this is, the West versus West. These two teams, this is another series with bad blood. So I'll be interested to see how this series goes as well. Oakland has had their playoff failures in the past. This was their first series win against the White Sox, their first series win in 14 years. So they've had playoff failures in the past, and it's not looking good for them in this game. They're already down 8-5 in Game 1, so we'll see.
Wow. All right, let's switch to the other side of the bracket. We'll stay on the East first, and then we'll get into the West. So the Marlins played the Cubs. The Marlins had a pretty good season, and that sort of continued here. Even though they were a 6 seed, they were able to defeat a 3 seed. Brian, what were your thoughts on that series?
Yeah, I'm really of all the teams, all the non-Yankee teams, I would say the team I'm most interested in is the Marlins. They're now 7-0 in playoff series all time as a franchise. They've never lost a playoff series, which is crazy. We'll see if that changes against Atlanta. But I really, as a Yankee fan personally, I love their owner, Derek Jeter, and their manager, Don Mattingly, 2 former Yankee captains. So I'm wishing them the best. And they're without a doubt the story of baseball this season. The way they've made the playoffs with, such a small talent pool and, not a whole lot of money to spend. The Marlins have definitely the story in baseball this year. And the Cubs lose again in the playoffs. They haven't quite been the same since they won the World Series in 2016. Another disappointing exit for the Cubs in the playoffs as well.
Yeah, so Miami is going to play another divisional matchup against Atlanta. Arun, what were some of your thoughts on the Cincinnati Reds versus Atlanta matchup?
There were no runs scored by the Reds, so it's pretty hard to win if you can't score. I guess one way is just not showing up to play. That's pretty bad. So at the Braves, they at least finally won a playoff series. They hadn't won a playoff series in a while either, but it's pretty tough for the Reds when you can't score.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that it's the first time that a team has been swept without any runs scored or something, which is, yeah, that's interesting and not a good stat to have. But what are your thoughts on the matchup between Miami and Atlanta, Arun?
I think the Braves, theoretically, they have the advantage. It's pretty crazy that the Marlins have never lost a series in the playoffs. In 2003, they beat the Cubs again. They beat the Cubs again. Let's see what happens. I think the Braves hitting is really spectacular. They scored 27 runs against the Marlins earlier in one game this season, but they lost the series, which was pretty crazy. But I think the Braves should win, but who knows? The Marlins have some weird juju going for them.
Brian, what are your thoughts on that series?
Yeah, Atlanta, like you said, Arun, they shut out Cincinnati. Just one last thought on that Cincinnati series. It'll be interesting to see where Trevor Bauer, who was the ace for that Red staff, we'll see where he ends up this season. In this offseason, he's definitely going to be the prized starting pitcher on the market. Probably the Cy Young Award winner in the NL. And the Braves pretty much they slogged their way through that series and got a sweep against the Reds. I think it'll be an interesting matchup. The Braves can hit with the best of them. Freeman's probably going to win MVP as well. So I think if the Braves, the Marlins, I think they're kind of an inexperienced team. Even with this series win against the Cubs, it'll still be interesting to see if they can upset the Braves. But the Braves have been knocking on the door of the NLCS for a while. So see if they can get there this time.
Carol, I saw that you wanted to say something about that.
Oh, no, just saying that that Braves series was kind of wild. I just saw that no runs were scored. The Miami team, even though the Nationals sold them a lot, nothing really stood out. They just played good, solid ball and was able to, get the record that they had. So it was definitely interesting to see them after the few seasons that they've had, consecutively being one of the worst teams in the majors. The fact that they were able to run a 60-game season in order to play as well as they did, in order to be in this position that they are now. And just to give a quick game break in case folks didn't remember that the New England-Kansas City game was postponed. They're actually playing that game right now. Kansas City is up 3-0 with 7 minutes and 26 seconds left in the first quarter. There'll be also a second Monday Night Football game. I believe will start around 8:40. I forgot the team just playing, but I'm flipping channels and just saw they had the Kansas City New England game. Also, anybody that's watching, listening, and watching.
No, I'm happy you reminded me because I had forgot to put it on myself. So that's a good thing to have on as a secondary. So that's good. I just realized I have to switch the different TVs around. Well, while I go do that, I'm going to let Brian, let us know what your thoughts on that San Diego St. Louis series.
Yeah, San Diego has never had a good postseason history against the Cardinals. The Cardinals are obviously one of the most historic teams in baseball, and the Padres have had pretty limited success outside of a couple World Series appearances. Not to mention the Padres were down 2 starters in this series. Mike Clevenger, who they got at the trade deadline from the Indians, and I can't remember the other starter's name, but he went down as well for the Padres. So you were kind of wondering how this would go for them. If you kind of thought this favored St. Louis a little bit, but I guess we never really got to know what St. Louis was this season. They had the COVID outbreak at the start of the year. That was obviously really tough for them, but they were bounced back to make the playoffs. And these games were really exciting. Fernando Tatis is unquestionably one of the most exciting young players in the game. We talked about him last week. I believe he hit 2 home runs in Game 2 of this series. I believe him and Eric Hosmer both hit 2 home runs in Game 2 of this series for the Padres, which carried them to a comeback win against the Cardinals. And then Game 3 was the Padres pretty much had the lead from the start, even though it was a bullpen game for them. So I'm also interested in the San Diego story. I want to see the Marlins do well, but I am interested in the San Diego story as well. I like seeing, but I've always personally liked Machado. I think Machado is a good player. I just like the way he plays the game, and I think he's a good player. And I think I'll be interested to see how San Diego does against LA.
I'm interested in that also. If you recall last week, I said I was interested to see what San Diego was going to do. They've been one of the most intriguing teams this year. You mentioned that. They were always in the news doing something, not living by the good old boy rules of MLB, doing things that, some folks would frown upon. And I'm definitely interested to see what they do against the Dodgers because I think they got a little mojo going here. I think they're going to ride that thing out as far as they can. But Machado, like I said, I've never really been a big fan of his, but, he's talented, definitely a quality player. And a lot of folks questioned him when he went to San Diego, because San Diego has been, in the basement for a while now trying to rebuild and, never been able to get it all together. And the fact that it's coming together, like you talked about Tatis and Machado being a little bit older so he can, be in that leadership role. And things are just coming together for him. It reminds you a little bit, of the Nets on their run when, things fell into place. And they were playing good, solid ball, defensively, offensively, and getting solid pitching. After that, it was just, another day at the ballpark. And that comeback victory, I must say, I had the game on the TV and I saw the score. And I will say I turned the game off for a minute. And I saw they started to come back. I left it off. And then they ended up winning. So I even lost a little faith when I saw how they were being handled. But they found a way to come back on that resiliency, which can go a long way in the playoffs, especially with this new format, and get the momentum and keep on pushing forward.
So Arun, the last series was it Dodgers? Was it Pittsburgh that they played?
No, Brewers.
Yep. That's right. So Dodgers, Brewers. What were your thoughts on that series?
That completed the Midwest sweep, I guess, like all the Midwest. I mean, the Cardinals were the last team, but the Brewers were also among all those teams in the Midwest being knocked out. Kershaw pitched well, which is good for him. And I don't know, the Brewers, they got eliminated again. And like last year, they got eliminated in the play-in game. This year, they got knocked out by the Dodgers, which was, I think, pretty much expected.
Right. It's definitely a tough time for Milwaukee fans, with expectations that their teams might finally break through. But Brian, what were some of your thoughts on that series?
Yeah, I pretty much went the way I expected it to. Dodgers are much better than the Brewers. Milwaukee fought back to even get into a postseason spot, but I pretty much expected the Dodgers to win this series in 2. And I like Kershaw personally. I know he's a bit of a playoff choker, but he's one of the best pitchers of this generation. So I like seeing him pitch well, and he did that in Game 2. And now that he's no longer on the Red Sox, I also like Mookie Betts. And he's been doing a great job for the Dodgers in this series. And I want to see him continue to hit hot and make the Red Sox regret trading him because he's a great player.
Yeah. Do we know if Cam Newton's playing in this football game?
No, he's not. He's not.
So did
He's on the COVID restricted list. I forgot they mentioned the quarterback that was starting. They haven't started in a while. It's
Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, Brian Hoyer. There you go. I saw it right before the game. They were talking about it on NFL Network. So yeah, New England has the ball on 3rd and 3, a little high. Look like they'll be funny. Kansas City still up 3-0. First quarter, 4:45 left in the first quarter of this game.
Yeah, I have to give you a little shout out. I know that we're not talking football, but you've been playing really well, Carol, in the Pick'em League. You're right up there, number 1. So
first place, I'm trying to do it. I had to go against my my squad, the Washington football team. I had to for the first time, and I don't know how long actually take them and be real and take the loss. Knew they were going to lose. It was a uphill battle, so I had to go with my logistical side. Being that I'm in first place, I want to hold on to it. And look like in my fantasy football, the Hertz Invitational, look like I'll be 2-1, 3-1 after this week in second place. And last week I did hold out and win that game against Hurt when he had the little running back from Kansas City going. I still won by like 10 points. So I'm looking pretty good on the football side right now. I appreciate that, Rob. I'm trying to stay hot, man. Trying to stay hot.
yeah, Arun and I have an opportunity here. We picked different than you in this first Monday night football game. I don't know who you picked yet in the Falcons one because it's not locked in. But I know at least the Kansas City one. I know that you picked New England, which I can understand.
I didn't know Cam was going to be out.
Yeah, so I get that. Yeah, so Arun and I may be able to get one back on you tonight. So we'll see. But still a lot of playing time, and it's still very close. You got 43 points right now. I've got 39, and Arun has 40. So we're all right in there. So it's all. So to be fair, I even picked that they would lose with Cam. So, but that's just me.
I was telling Belichick and Cam together was going to have a great game plan, but now with Brian Hoyer, I think things got switched up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So I think we've talked about all the matchups, right? I mean, or what are we thinking about that LA San Diego matchup? I don't know if we talked about that specifically, Brian. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it all depends on if San Diego gets those starting pitchers back that I mentioned, Clevenger and unfortunately the guy whose name I can't remember. If they get him back, they might have a chance to push this to 4 or 5 games. But if not, it could be a very quick series. The Dodgers are probably the best team in baseball.
For sure. Arun, any thoughts on that? Oh, sorry. What was that, Carol?
I'm rooting the Padres. I'm always going to be anti-Dodgers.
I mean, me too, but the Dodgers are really good. Like, I'll admit that.
Yeah, I'm with Carol on that. Arun, what are your thoughts on that series?
I just wanted to shout out the Padres because they were Myers and Tatis were the first players to hit multi-home runs since Gehrig and Babe Ruth back in 1932 in the World Series. So if the bats stay alive for the Padres, it could be their year, but the Dodgers are looking to, I don't know, they've been knocking on the door of the World Series, and they also got, like Brian complains about the Astros, the Dodgers are also complaining about the Astros. So I think it's the Dodgers will probably take this one.
Carol, do you have any thoughts on the series?
Like I said, I'm rooting for the Padres. I like them as an underdog, the young team that's, scrapping out of nowhere. They just jumped into the playoffs. They're looking to make some noise. I'm rooting on them to be my Cinderella story is going to make the run to the World Series. I'm going to put that on the Padres.
Got it. Do you have just talking about predictions and stuff, Carol, do you have any thoughts now that you've heard our experts' analysis on any of the other series? Anything else that you're looking forward to or you looking to?
I guess that Atlanta-Miami series is going to be interesting. I've seen both teams extensively this year playing against the Nats. I feel the Braves have the advantage, but Miami's playing quality ball and playing. Feel like they have a little something to prove. So I think it's going to be an interesting series between those two division rivals. Also, I'm not too familiar with the AL team. Brian covers those very well. The Athletics going against Houston. I know who he's rooting for. It's I'm not really, like I said, I don't watch much American League baseball. I don't know why I don't. I love it nationally. That's why I can't wait to get back to get the DH out of the NL and get the pitchers back.
Right. It sounds interesting. It'll be a bunch of interesting series. I'm kind of rooting for Houston to win because I'd really like the Yankees to get an opportunity to revenge. Well, no, I want.
All right. I didn't hear you finish it.
You did, yeah, you're like you cut me off. Yeah. No, I wanted you guys to have that moment. That moment.
All right. Yeah.
Brown was about to throw his phone across the room like, what?
This brand new iPad. That's
I'm just gonna chuck this thing. Now that you put it that way, Robbie, I would actually like to see that happen too. I would love for the Yankees and Astros to win these series, and the Yankees to destroy them in 4 straight games. That's all I can hope for.
There you go. Arun, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, the Rays would also got their opportunity for revenge last year, and I think I think like if the Astros Yankees, that's a neutral observer, I want it actually to go like 7 just for like all the tension, but it'd be pretty good like ratings for baseball. But I don't know, like the Astros don't have Cole and Verlander. That's probably too much to hope for.
You mentioned ratings. I think that's a good sort of final topic to talk about. The hockey ratings were down, which kind of surprised me because I thought it was a good series. The NBA ratings have been really down, which has surprised me as well. Do you guys? I'll start with Brian. Do you think that the baseball ratings will also be down, or do you think that because it's the same time period it's usually in, that it will still do pretty well?
Yeah, I think sports ratings just seem to be down across the board, and I don't really get it. I mean, when sports came back, I was personally thrilled to have them back. I was extremely excited to get sports back. I couldn't get enough of it. So I don't get why they're down. It could be, the protests and, people, you see all these comments on Facebook, like, I'm done watching the NFL and things like that. It could be something like that, but ratings seem to be down across the board. And I've heard that ratings for the playoffs so far in baseball are down.
Interesting. Yeah, I was wondering if just because it's like an early round, maybe the people would come in later. But so far in the other series, the ratings diminished over time. So it'll be interesting to see what baseball does. Arun, do you have any thoughts on that?
I think the NFL is still doing relatively well, but yeah, basketball, maybe it's like a couple of factors with like there are no super teams. You didn't have that battle of LA, like Denver versus LA is not a huge market, like Denver, especially. And it's just like a lot of the big East Coast teams, like the Knicks, of course, aren't in the playoffs, and Philadelphia lost in the first round. And like this Miami Lakers series, it like potentially was a good matchup, but like even with this incredible game 3, like if 2 of the 3 best players of one team are out, it's just like maybe people are already starting to tune out.
Yeah, it's crazy. I thought it would be a great series. Do you think, Arun, that it would have better ratings if it was Boston Lakers for the historic factor to it?
Boston is definitely a bigger market, and I mean, yeah, probably because even if they're healthy, but I think also if like Jaylen Brown and Kemba Walker were injured in the first game, I think the ratings could also suffer, and maybe just becoming more localized. Like, I mean, the Celtics they don't have like a superstar like LeBron James, so I think it would have had to actually been like for the highest ratings, even though Milwaukee's a smaller market, it would have been like Giannis versus LeBron would have been probably like a bigger national draw.
For sure. Carol, any thoughts that you may have on sort of the surprise low ratings for sports and their return?
Without getting to the political side of it, I mean, like you mentioned, the boycotts. I'm not really sure. That's really a surprise to me. Like Brian said, that the NFL is doing pretty good. But I just want to say that those are domestic numbers. The thing that's ironic is these products are doing better overseas than they are in their own backyard. We get a lot of viewership over, in Europe, over, other countries that watch, sit up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning with the time difference to watch these games. So they might be getting less viewership here, but they are getting more viewership worldwide. It's like I said, I'm not gonna get into the political aspects of it, but I think a lot has to do with politics. And unfortunately, it is what it is right now. Folks are choosing to make their stand or make their voice being heard in whatever fashion because they agree agree or disagree with the stance that some of these leagues have taken, what some of the things that's going on nowadays. So I mean, I think that plays a part into it. But these leagues are not going to falter because of these folks domestically, because they're flourishing internationally. So I mean, they're making their voice be heard for whatever reason, whatever. But it's a shock to me also. I honestly didn't know that until y'all said something just now.
Yeah, it's really surprising to me because I was like, with all the wanting of things to do right now, you would think that people would be tuning in double time to sports. Like, why not? Like, it's a great escape, and I will say personally, I've loved it. I've loved the football, although I am really nervous with how they're sort of fast and loose with this. I think that NFL. I was wondering if they could make it to Week 5. It looks like they're going to, but you're starting to see cases come out right now, and a couple of these, you can't really reschedule games like you can in baseball. And I'm just curious, once it's a critical mass, it could become a big problem for them. But I was happy that the NBA and the NHL made it through without any issues. I mean, the NBA has like a couple of games left, but I can't imagine at this point that they're going to. And I thought both series were fantastic. And it's frustrating because I think that people are going to remember the finals not being so exciting as maybe a reason that the series it wasn't great overall. But I really like both bubble tournaments, and I hope that they're not overlooked or put an asterisk on, because I think that they really put some great effort out there. And yes, it was different, and yes, it's not the same grind. I know Scottie Pippen was saying that these NBA players, they need to have to deal with crowd adversity, they need to deal with travel adversity, and it's not a true championship until they do. But I think that having to be away from your family and your friends and being isolated is a whole different mental game that they have to deal with. And I don't think that could be overlooked. I don't think it's necessarily easier. I don't know if it's harder, but it's definitely, I think, they put a good product on the field or the court or the ice. And I think they should all be commended upon the effort that they put out there. And I've really enjoyed all the series, even if I know that some of the series didn't end up quite the way that people were hoping for. But anyway, any final thoughts, Carol, before we switch over to the NBA?
No, I guess I'll go ahead and do a quick segue into your NBA roundtable. I saw that Doc Rivers had got fired by the Clippers, and he's now in Philadelphia, I believe. Uh, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I've never been a real Philly fan, but I've been a Doc Rivers fan. Unfortunately, he's lost the 3-1 advantage in the playoffs several times, which does lead to his departure from the Clippers recently. But I think it's going to be interesting him coming back to the East Coast. He was coaching the Celtics when they got the ring with KG, Ray Allen, Rondo, and all of them. I'm not going to fake I was a Celtics fan then because I was a KG fan. So it's just interesting to see how quickly he got a job. We talked about it last week. I thought he would take some time off just to relax and chill after some of the statements he had made or some of the climate of what's been going on in the world today or in this country today. But to see him, automatically jump right back to another team without taking no time off, I guess either shows his dedication to the sport or he just loves being a coach and can't get off of that bench right now.
But also, I think that the Sixers were looking for somebody. Strike while the iron is hot. You could always take time off, but who knows necessarily what will happen after that. But it's a good point. I know we didn't get to it in the NBA roundtable, but I was happy we got into it right after with Dugenet. Let's bring in our fourth member of our NBA roundtable right now, DC's People Champ. How are you doing tonight? Oh, let's see. You there? Champ? All right, I think he stepped away for a second. Let me see.
Tim's on his way. He just texted us saying he's coming.
All right, cool. All right, sounds good. Champ, are you there? You're going to have to unmute yourself. All right, well,
I'm here. I am here.
Okay, there you go. You also need to activate your camera, I think.
Yeah, I am. I'm just doing a little finagling right quick.
Got it. Well, while you do that, I see that Tim is joining us as well. He's just getting his audio hooked up. So we'll get the full roundtable here in just a second. But it's been a really fun series so far. I thought it was very lopsided at first, for sure. So we just got into that Doc Rivers news that he's now in the 76ers that Carol mentioned. I know we didn't get into that last week, which it's good that we didn't talk too much about it because he already has a new job, so good for him. We thought that he would. But let's get into this Lakers series. I'm going to pull up the stats here real fast. But overall, I thought that the Lakers really just kind of dominated these first two games, and I was surprised by the result in game 3. But let's break it down game by game since we've got about 20 minutes or so to do that. The first game happened way back in September 30th, that was. So it's the Lakers took an early lead, 31-28. They had a dominating second quarter where they outscored them 34-20. Continued that domination through the third, outscored 28-19. And then the Heat kind of made it a little more respectable in the fourth, outscoring the Lakers 31-23. But overall, 116-98. Just some of the high scorers, obviously Anthony Davis with 34 points, 9 rebounds. LeBron had 25, 13, and 9. He almost had 10 assists. He would have had a triple-double there. Caruso off the bench at 10. Morris is playing pretty decent. Just, a good all-around game, I thought. We'll start off with Arun. Arun, what were some of your thoughts on game 1?
Just basically all the injuries the Heat had to go through in this one. Like first Dragic, like he left. The score was 41-40 in the second quarter. He left with an injury. Bam Adebayo left with an injury, and then Jimmy Butler also he had an ankle injury in this one. So it's pretty crazy. But even with that said, the Heat had no ability to slow down LeBron or Anthony Davis in this one. Maybe their heart was like not really in the game, but if this is the NBA Finals, no excuses for that. And it wasn't even as close as the 18-point like indicated. Like it was garbage time where like Kelly Olynyk and Nunn put up points, but it was just like that. It just became like pretty clear what like it feels like the Lakers are really heavy favorites, like at least going after this one.
For sure. All right, let's go. Brian, what are some of your thoughts on that game 1?
Yeah, it's crazy. Miami did have a 15-point lead, if I'm not mistaken, early in this game. So at that point, I was thinking, okay, maybe the Heat came to play. Maybe this will be a good series. But like Arun said, the injuries really racked up. They really piled up for Miami, and it just was too much for them. LeBron and AD, I really think they're going to be just too much for this Heat team. We saw it in these first two games. Anthony Davis, you can make a case, has been the Finals MVP so far over LeBron. I'm not saying definitely, but you can make a case. He's been great, and he's showing why he's the best player LeBron has ever played with, honestly. Just an absolute dominating performance from him in game 1.
Sounds good. Champ, what are some of your thoughts on game 1?
I gotta tell you, one of the things I noticed, and I'm probably mentioning this with game 2 as well, is like it seems like when it got to the mid to late point of the second quarter, all of a sudden the Lakers just turned on a switch and they just started going, and it was just full speed ahead for them, and it was incredible to see. I'm loving the dynamic duo of LeBron and AD. Those two guys are really, really putting this team on their backs to like take them to that championship. What I also noticed was like Tyler Hero, who I've spoken his praises on this very podcast throughout this playoffs, he's been somewhat missing. He still scored double figures, but he's been mostly missing. He hasn't been making that impact that he made in the previous series against Boston. So he showed that they're a good, complete team, but they just don't seem to have the talent outside of Hero and Butler to be able to keep up with the talent that is the Los Angeles Lakers.
Tim, any other thoughts on game 1?
Just the Heat don't have a lot of advantages. Maybe only the 3-point shot and getting to the line, and the Lakers did that much better in game 1. And like other people said, that second quarter was a complete disaster. To blow the lead and have the injuries, a lot of people like myself gave up at halftime. It just really went nowhere quickly in a very short period of time. But the nice thing with the injuries is if the series goes to 6, or I doubt 7, but to 6, they might get Bam back. So, there is an advantage in winning that game besides just not getting swept.
Right. Well, let's talk about game 2 now. The Lakers came out to another early lead, 29-23. They were able to put up 39 points in the second quarter to the Heat's 31. The Heat put up 39 points to themselves in the third quarter, and Lakers only put up 35. And in the fourth quarter, they both put up 21. So that game was a little bit closer, 124-114. The score seemed closer, at least in my mind, than at some moments the game was. Butler once again put up a great, unfortunately, Olynyk, a guy I don't really like, put up some good numbers. For the Lakers, James had 33, 9, and 9, and Anthony Davis had 32 and 14 rebounds. But overall, I kind of felt that the Lakers were pretty much in control of that game. I'm going to go in reverse order this time. Tim, what are your thoughts on this matchup for this game?
Well, again, I mean, it's crazy because the Heat were up 13 in the first quarter, but still managed to lose the first quarter. LeBron had a triple-double. It was not even really necessary. I mean, it was one of the quieter triple-doubles, I guess. It wasn't like the Jimmy Butler 40-point one, but just the Lakers, when they're on, they can just overtake a game in 5 minutes and just end a good team like the Heat. So I think they were, the more prepared team, even though they needed the game less. They were determined to get the 2-0 lead, which I believe LeBron has never done before this, which is kind of crazy. But it was a lot closer game. The Heat had an impressive performance for their injured team, but just in the end, they couldn't pull it out. But it was a game that I enjoyed watching from start to finish.
Yeah, I think James was 33, 9, and 9, so he almost had a triple-double.
Okay.
I think it was just short. But I mean, still an incredible performance for sure. And I think, for me, LeBron, if the Lakers win, which I think they will probably win the MVP just because I think he's been a little more consistent overall across all 3 games. But Anthony Davis has been incredible as well. And I think it's been really a great opportunity for Anthony Davis because he's kind of had to carry teams. And so is LeBron. And so the fact that they could be a 1A, 1B, and they could defer to each other, I think as you were saying, I don't think they've really had that before for either one of them. I know that there have been other good people around both of them, but never to this level. Champ, what are some of your thoughts on game 2?
Dynamic duo. That's all I can say about that. Dynamic duo. Again, the score does not really tell the story of this game. Again, the Lakers did well, especially shooting. Miami, they did what they could when it came to this game. I mean, they kept it relatively close. It wasn't like they got into the second quarter and just absolutely got blown out. They kept it pretty competitive, which kind of was a precursor to what happened with game 3. But in the end, when you got King James and when you have King James and you have AD shooting the way that they are with others on the team playing as well as they are, again, the talent just seems to take over for what they have against the Heat, and that's why they were able to win game 2 so well. So not easily, but not as easy as they did in game 1, but still was able to get a big victory in game 2.
Sounds good. And
that's a big ass bottle, Tim. Jesus.
Yeah, shout out to King Farm Liquor Store and the free LED light bulb that I got today.
I love it. All right, Arun, I'll let you go next. What are your thoughts on game 2?
Just overall, the Heat were not getting those 50-50 balls. The Lakers, were exposing the Heat's zone defense. They had 16 offensive rebounds. I mean, Anthony Davis, through the first 2 games, I think you can make the case that Anthony Davis deserved an MVP. Probably co-MVP would be ideal after the first 2 games anyways. And the Heat's defense was not there at all. And it's just was maybe they played small. That was part of it. Why the reason they gave up so many points. None actually played well. Olynyk, as you mentioned, he killed the Wizards in game 7 a couple of years ago. He played well, but if Davis has 32 and 15, he made 15 out of 20 shots, and that's just not going to get it done for the Heat.
Yeah, for sure. Brian, what are some of your thoughts on game 2?
Yeah, I agree with you, Robbie. This game wasn't as close as the final score indicated. The Heat kind of came back towards the end, but really I never had any doubt the Lakers we're going to win this game. Like Arun said, or you could really have made a case that LeBron and AD were co-MVPs after game 2, the way they've both played and feeded off each other. But I just want to give a shout out to some reserve guys on the Lakers who have been playing really well in the series as well. Alex Caruso has been playing fine basketball on both offensive and defensive end. And Markieff Morris, as you guys all know from the Wizards, he's been great in this series for the Lakers as well. They've both been big parts as well for this Lakers team, and they should not be forgotten if they win a title. But
and Kuzma too.
And Kuzma, of course. Kuzma struggled a little bit in the playoffs, but overall he's been a good for them, I would say. But yeah, definitely you should acknowledge those guys as well, because they've been great for the Lakers in this series, and they'll be a big part of the reason why they win.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well then let's get into this sort of anomaly game. I was sort of surprised by Game 3. I did not expect it. I expected the Heat to come out, with some fire, right? But they did. They really took it to them early and often. I kind of thought the Lakers were going to fight back in and win it at the end. That was kind of my thought throughout the whole game, but I was surprised that the Heat were able to stay in it and be able to win. So the scoring breakdown, the Heat outscored the Lakers 26-23, but they were, well outscoring them. The Lakers had to have a big comeback at the end of that first quarter, even to make it close. And then the same kind of thing happened in the second quarter. The Heat outscored them 32-31. But once again, I thought the Heat was playing well, and the Lakers had to come back. And then in the third, it was pretty even scoring. The Heat outscored the Lakers 27-26. And then in the fourth quarter, the Heat outscored the Lakers 30-24 for a 115-104 victory. It was interesting. The Heat kept on having this lead. The Lakers would cut into it, and then the Heat would extend it again. And just by the end, I think they ran out of gas, and it was interesting. I do want to talk to you guys all and get your thoughts on the end of the game. I did not take a big exception to it. I know that Brian didn't like it, about LeBron walking off and not finishing the game, and they had to get like a reserve to try to get out of his clothes and jump into the game with a couple of seconds left. I've heard a lot of podcasts talk about this, and there's definitely mixed thoughts on it. So I'll definitely get each one of your thoughts on it too. So I'll go around again. We'll start off with Brian. What were your thoughts?
Well, Game 3, talk about the Jimmy Butler performance. I mean, that's definitely the performance of his career so far. Honestly, a career-defining performance. And I mentioned this in the group chat, but the best comparison I can make, people were saying, is this the top 10 finals performance of all time? The best comparison I can make is Allen Iverson in Game 1 against the Lakers in 2001, where he scored 49 points and then did the step over on Ty Lue. This game reminds me a lot of that game from Jimmy Butler. Are they probably going to win the series? Probably not. But is this game going to be remembered for a long time by Heat fans, by NBA fans? Absolutely. A 40-point triple-double in the NBA Finals. Incredible stuff from Jimmy Butler. The LeBron thing and walking off the court early, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I think that's kind of a lame move. You've just lost a game, and to act that way, I know he's, trying to focus and get ready for the next game, but personally, that's not what I would have done. I personally think they could have handled that a little bit better. I think he said that he's just left because he thought the game was over, which I mean, I think there was only like 0.4 seconds left.
Yeah,
anyway.
It was very little.
Yeah,
so.
I just personally, that's not how I would have done it, but yeah, I see why it's caused a mixed reaction across the board today.
And one other question I'll ask for you, Brian, is what were your thoughts on what Butler was saying after the game? Yeah, saying they're in trouble because LeBron, that's what he said to him after Game 1.
Yeah, he's just firing back at LeBron. We saw him screaming at his team after he hit a big shot. They're in trouble. They're in trouble. Like I said, personally, I still don't see Miami winning the series. Either way, maybe they can push it to 6 games. But it's good that Jimmy has that confidence. But overall, I don't think the Lakers are in trouble, so to speak.
All right, Champ, I'm going to go to you next. What are some of your thoughts on some of those topics?
I'm going to tell you, the Heat definitely, this was a statement game for them, in my opinion. After the way they played the first 2 games, this was a statement game for them in terms of not only getting the victory to avoid being swept after all the social media said, oh, they about to get swept. They about to get them out of here in 4 games. This was a statement game. Jimmy Butler, this was a statement for him to score 40 points. And like Ice Cube said, and today was a good day, he messed around and got a triple-double. I mean, what else can you ask for from him? Hero made some impact plays. That's my guy right there. The LeBron thing, I'm a little bit indifferent about that, only because, I mean, when you're a competitor, sometimes your emotions can get the better of you and things of that nature. I know me, I very rarely played organized sports growing up, only a little bit, but I'm a very competitive person. And I know if I feel like we just got our asses handed to us, I'm gonna feel some type of way about it. But that's also going to be a motivator. So don't be surprised if LeBron comes out the next game and he goes off. For real, he goes off. But this was a statement game for the Heat to show that them as a team, they're starting to gel. They got rid through the first 2 games. I think they're going to steal one more, but I still think it's Lakers in 6.
Yeah, I'm still thinking it's Lakers in 6 as well. Tim, what are some of your thoughts on Game 3?
Well, here's an interesting stat. Sorry, Arun, if I'm stealing your thunder, but Jimmy Butler was the first player in NBA Finals history to outscore, out-rebound, and out-assist LeBron James, including his own teammates. So that's more of a stat of how great LeBron is, honestly. But definitely the performance of his whole career. If nothing else, I think we'll remember this game as the Jimmy Butler game. I think the AI game was even more impressive, especially because the rest of his team was pretty bad. And I think that Lakers team is even better than this Lakers team. So to me, to pull off that victory in the Staples Center was really impressive. But I
think you and I watched that game together over at Jan's house. So
yeah, it was a McLean party when we were probably doing stuff we weren't supposed to. I remember parts of that game.
Right. Yeah, we were in high school, but we were probably having a beverage or two.
And some adults.
Yes,
but,
for sure.
But I remember that game. I rewatched it recently too because it was a great basketball game. But I think that he found something on offense with Olenek. I also hate him, and he's not the best defender or rebounder, but he can score. He can hit threes. He's kind of a matchup problem. He was barely playing until Bam got hurt, but maybe they found a little something. I agree. I think probably Lakers in 6. Lakers have lost 1 game per series, so it's really not a big deal. And if it's going to take that type of effort to barely beat them, the Heat are indeed in trouble. And even LeBron, I mean, he had a couple travels in the fourth quarter, which are really, really odd for him. Anthony Davis had bad foul trouble and wasn't a big factor in this game. He didn't play a lot of minutes and got 4 fouls very early. So it was kind of everything had to align for the Heat, and I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, that's happened.
The next 4.
Exactly, that's happened 4 times. I just don't see it happening. Arun, what are your thoughts on Game 3?
I would compare it to Wade's performance in Game 3 against the Mavericks, where he also had 42 points and 10 rebounds, and Jimmy Butler obviously had the triple-double. And it's pretty incredible that Butler had all of his 42 points with only 2-pointers, and the only other player to do that was Shaq, who's a center, and Butler's like a 6'6" player, which is pretty incredible. I think the big difference between Game 3 and Game 2, other than Butler's big offensive performance, was the defensive performance. The Lakers scored 124 in Game 2, and they only scored 104 in this one. That's the part which is going to be hard to replicate because Miami's offense was actually as good in Game 2. Anthony Davis got in foul trouble, and I think he only took less than 10 shots in this one, which is I think people should be more angry about that than LeBron leaving the court. That's LeBron. He leaves without shaking hands. That makes him who he is. He's you're gonna have to live with that if you want to. He's probably gonna be a 3 to 4 time champion. Probably gonna win this series. But if Miami can limit them, then they have a chance. I just don't know if the officiating is going to call all those fouls on Anthony Davis, if he's going to get in foul trouble. I think Carroll's alluded to this in the past. Sometimes the league does get it's not like they rig it, but it's a little bit slanted towards the Heat. In this one, Anthony Davis being in foul trouble, and I don't think and LeBron getting those travel calls, he does travel a lot. They actually usually don't call that, so that's like, we'll see what happens going forward.
Right, and going to your point about going to the line so much, I mean, Butler got a lot of his points in free throws, so I mean that was obviously an important part of his game, and they called every ticky-tack foul on that. So, all right, well, I think that it just crashed over to past 8 o'clock. So, Arun, I'm going to let you give your thoughts quickly on the Washington football team versus the Ravens, and then I think. Brian, you said you're going to stay on the line and then come back and give a scoring update after the next segment. Is that what you wanted to do?
Yeah, if you want me to, I can do that. I can just hang on the line. You can just summon me whenever you need to.
Sounds good. So I won't have you say your goodbyes quite yet, but I will. Arun, any final thoughts that you have and any thoughts on football real quick?
All things considered, like Washington, I mean, like I didn't think it was going to be a close game. It was like closer, like even though it was 14 points, it was closer than I thought it would be, and that's probably largely due to RG3 throwing that pick for no real reason. Gibson, like he looks like he could be like, at least like he looks like a good running back, and they should give him the ball more, which they've been leaning on doing. Scary Terry, he looks like a number 1 receiver. Hopefully they like Haskins threw for 300 yards, but I mean, that 4th down play where he didn't even throw it in the end zone, like Rivera said that he was trying to test Haskins' awareness. Like, you got to force it into the end zone, like, even if nobody's open. And, like, I kind of agree for going for it on 4th down, like, because the Ravens were not slowing down. In fact, they just took Lamar Jackson out of the game for no real reason, just to give RG3 a shot at revenge against his former team, which was, I don't know, like, it's funny that RG3 is, like, talking about the package has been delivered. He's like tweeting on social media. It's like pretty ridiculous, but it's also kind of funny. That's RG3. And I mean, he's been the best rookie quarterback and like since like in 2012, and hopefully Haskins gets to that level. But I mean, more people are calling for him to be benched. Kyle Allen's a young player. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. Ron Rivera probably knows best. I'd say keep playing Haskins, but let's see what happens.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Arun. We appreciate it. And we'll have you back on for more basketball and baseball talk next week.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Robbie.
Sounds good. All right, Brian, I'm going to have you turn off your camera also, and we're going to switch over to football mode, and we'll have you come back in a little bit. All right, sounds good. Well, thank you, guys. And I'm going to have Tim and we're going to have Champ stay on as well, and we're going to have a 4-person NBA roundtable. I'm actually going to hit the bathroom for a second, so I'm going to jump off for just a second. But Carol, why don't you interview these guys and talk to them about each of their favorite teams? We got a Ravens fan and a Washington football team fan here on the line with us.
No doubt. You can talk some Washington football. Unfortunately, took a loss to the Baltimore Ravens yesterday. Drops them to 1-3. Baltimore climbs to 3-1. As Robbie mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, I pretty much figured this would be a loss. Baltimore is a quality team. Lamar Jackson is a problem. As I said in my pregame, that if they didn't keep him in the pocket, it was basically impossible for them to beat the Ravens. They would have to keep him in the pocket, kind of like Kansas City did on Monday night, this past Monday night, when they were able to keep him in the pocket and have him to his lowest total passing yardage game of his career. On the good side, they forced 2 turnovers, one by Jackson, one by RG3, as Arun alluded to a little bit earlier. You mentioned Antonio Gibson. Me and Duvernay went in a deep dive about him when we first drafted him. Said that he was definitely going to fit the role that we imagined for him in Scott Turner's offense, just like they had Christian McCaffrey in Carolina. He's starting to get his legs under him, starting to get confidence. You have to remember he's converted wide receiver to running back. And as Duvernay went over the story before, he was a running back, being a wide receiver with the Senior Bowl. The running back went down. He had some snaps at Memphis and running back, and the story went from there. The man was had great vision, great speed, great moves, and it just fits. So that yesterday with some of the moves that he made, some of the acceleration, some of the cutbacks, So, some things are looking better. Terry McLaurin had his most receptions in the game. He had 10 receptions for 118 yards. He didn't get in the end zone, but he definitely saw him and Haskins having a little bit of chemistry late in the game, which was, too late anyway, because that's one of the issues that I have with Haskins. He starts too late. It showed on the game that his first half quarterback rating was like 51, and the second half quarterback rating was like 75. And like it's taking him too long to warm up, too long to get into the groove. Haroon mentioned he had over 300 yards. He threw the ball 42 times, as I mentioned pregame. It's not a good recipe for the Washington football team to win. Once again, it comes true. He completed a nice percentage. He had over 300 yards passing, no interceptions, but no touchdowns also. So, his team has unfortunately regressed each week in the points category. This week on for the 17, week on for the 27. And it's been steadily coming down since then. I've had some concerns with Scott Turner's play calling, and some of it's reminded me of Jay Gruden a little bit. 3rd and 2 line of a shotgun instead of running the ball across the line trying to get the first down. I love Coach Rivera going for it on 4th down, showing he has confidence in his team. But those things kind of stall your team out also when you have a good tempo, a good rhythm going. And on 3rd down, you have to go to 4th down and change the complexion of the momentum of the drive and of the player's mindset. So, it's still a work in progress, as I mentioned earlier. This is still like preseason. It's only week 4, new offense, second year quarterback, new offensive coordinator, new head coach. So, a lot of moving parts. Tim, you being a Baltimore guy, basking in the victory of your team yesterday. What did you take away from the game yesterday?
I thought actually WFT, besides the 50-yard touchdown run, did a decent job containing the run game. Compared to a lot of teams, they were pretty stout up front. I think, though, what they sacrificed by probably having more guys close to the line was they really let Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews get loose. And it was one of Hollywood Brown's better games because of that. And then Andrews had the 2 touchdown catches. So, on defense, I don't think it was a terrible game. I think on offense, though, there were a few weird Rivera decisions. I thought that 4th down play to try to score and make it closer in the second half on 4th and goal was a terrible play call. I mean, you can't throw it to the 6-yard line when there's just a wall of defenders between the receiver and the end zone. It's just not going to get it done. And Haskins, he protected the ball. The only turnover was a fumble at an inopportune time, but he's still not really making enough plays down the field. The WFT really hurt the Ravens on the slants. Like McLaurin and Gibson were great in the short passing game, but I think the next level of development for him is he just has to be able to hit the medium and deep throws to, scare the defense away from the slant game. But it was a little bit closer than I thought. I think the interception at the end of the first half for the Ravens really made the game a lot closer than it had to be. I thought it was Lamar's fault at first. Apparently, it was the receiver's fault. He ran the wrong route. So, Kendall Fuller had a great game. He was probably the MVP, maybe, both teams. But, WFT, I think they have the right coach. They just need to continue to build the talent. I think you have to give Haskins a little bit more time to see if he's the guy. I mean, you can't give up on him this early. He's not a terrible quarterback. He's maybe average right now, but he's very young. And even his college coach said he just needs more time to really become a leader. He's got the physical skills. So I think he just, he needs a little bit more time to develop. But there was nothing I saw yesterday that really convinced me either way on him, honestly.
I feel you on that. The only thing I definitely agree with you about Haskins. Only thing that had me, doing a double take was in those situations on that 4th down that you brought up. He didn't throw the ball into the end zone. He threw it to a on the 6-yard line on a 4th and goal. You saw when they were deciding to go for another 4th down, he was already on his way to the sideline before the coach even decided if he was going to go for the 4th or not. And to me, that, I mentioned in the pregame about his lack of confidence and leading his receivers and throwing in the tight windows because he's afraid to make mistakes. And he doesn't have the confidence in the receivers or in himself to make those throws like we've seen other quarterbacks do against our defense. So I think it's a combination of that. And I agree that he does have to be on the field in order to, improve. But he has to show that leadership also and that will and that want. And I think that's the first time I saw a little bit of the youth and some of the immaturity in him by those, things that I just picked up on. Granted, I'm a coach and I look at things, an ex-coach, and I look at things differently. But that's just something that caught my eye. And you mentioned about the slant game. That definitely was something that was working well. The next step is getting the secondary receivers getting open and winning, but you have to build off of the running game in order to get the play action game, which gives him more time to make those intermediate throws where he's not rushing and not throwing into a smaller window because the linebackers are dropping back and getting depth without even thinking a second thought about the run. And they had a steady dose. Gibson had a decent game. I believe he had 13 carries for 46 yards and a touch, had 82 yards in the receiving game out the backfield. So that's what I was saying. I was giving kudos to him. I mentioned that he would be a key if they would win this game. If he went off, he had a decent game. He didn't really, run ragged like I would like to see him do. But Baltimore's a quality team, and you can't take nothing away from him. But this with Haskins, I need to see more improvement because last week he had the horrible 3 interception game. He didn't have any turnovers this week. Then no interceptions this week with no touchdowns also. And like I said, those couple of key things that I saw kind of threw me off a little bit. What about you, DCP? What do you think about this game? What do you think about Haskins?
At least for this week, I can't put it all on Haskins for this loss. He went out there, he played pretty decently to get over 300 yards passing. Pretty good feat for him, even though he didn't throw a touchdown. It came really close on that deep ball to the Scary Terry late in the game. I thought he was going to get his touchdown there. He didn't. I really would like to see them use Gibson a lot more. They got to use Gibson a lot more because it's clear that Gibson's starting, like you said earlier, CP3, that he's starting to get his legs underneath him and starting to get confidence to be able to hit those holes and get downhill and try to get positive yardage. He was able to get a touchdown, which was really good. Awesome job for him. Shout out to Kendall Fuller, getting 2 picks, one on Lamar Jackson, the other on RG3, who it was funny that Tim made the joke during the roundtable last week that they was going to put RG3 in the game. He was joking, and they ended up putting him in the game anyway. But all in all, defense did okay. They were able to keep things in perspective, even though they did give up that big run to Lamar Jackson for the touchdown, which was like really backbreaking. They ended up losing Sweat during the game due to injury, which really hurt them. They didn't have Chase Young. They won't have Matt Ioannidis for a while. So I think that's where they kind of struggled a little bit. They weren't really able to get at Lamar Jackson like they wanted to, like they've been able to do the first 3 games of the season. But hopefully defensively they can stay strong and stay stout. Offensively, they definitely got to start getting into more of a rhythm. Definitely got to get the run game going again. I mean, you have young backs back there that are ready to just get after it, and you have an offensive line that's just ready to just go at defenses, not backpedal to them. They want to go at defenses. They want to really put stick their hand in the ground and just go face first into it. So again, I can't put all of this on Haskins. Haskins had a pretty clean game. Didn't give the ball up. But the other problem is, and CP3, this is another thing you've mentioned, is his mechanics are still just so off. His footwork, when he gets happy feet, all of a sudden he misses throws. He misses throws and things of that nature. But also his receivers also have to make plays as well. There was a couple of balls that they could have made plays on and they didn't. So it's 50-50 there. It's half 50%. Haskins got to get his mechanics and his footwork down to be able to make those throws, and the other half is his receivers have got to go make plays for their quarterback, so that way it's not the pressure's not entirely on him. They got to go out there and make plays for their quarterback. Otherwise, we're going to have results just like this. Ravens are a quality team. They've only lost once this year so far, but this could have been a game where they could have made a statement, and they were unable to do so. And that's the long and the short of it.
True, but the thing with Haskins is it goes hand in hand with his mechanics because he was throwing behind receivers, he was throwing over receivers, he was throwing too far in front of him, which is a byproduct of the bad mechanics. So I really can't say that the wide receivers weren't going after the ball because sometimes they didn't know where the ball was coming at. It was coming low, coming in high, coming in, where it was, and leaving himself exposed for the defender. So that's why I'm not saying it was all on Haskins. Like last week, the game, I put it on him with those 3 interceptions, 1 fumble. But this week, I'm not putting it on him. But if he wants to be that guy, he wants to be that number 1 guy, sometimes you have to make plays happen. You have to manage. You can't just be a game manager and manage the clock and, hand the ball off and take the safe play, take the quick throw because you don't want to make a mistake. Sometimes you got to take it on yourself to be that number 1 guy. Like, okay, we need points right here. I'm going to manufacture this drive. I'm going to find a way for us to go down there and get points. And that's one thing I know. Like I said, I know he's still young. I know it's still young in the season. I know this is preseason. And not saying he should be in mid-season form, being able to do the 2-minute drill, taking him down the score. But we should see some of that, more flashes of that, to see that the light is coming on, to see that he's getting it, to see that he has control of his offense, to see that he has control of the huddle, to see that he has the confidence, even when he makes a bad throw, to continue to keep pushing forward and not hang his head or not run off the field on 3rd down and short when your coach is still deciding if you want to go for it on 4th down, try to get some momentum for your team. So that's all I'm saying. He said all the right things in the offseason. He's shown that he's been doing the chemistry with the receivers and doing the film study. Now this is that intangible thing that now it's time for him to start stepping up and starting to show that he wants to be that guy. Because it's not always about what you say and things being ideal and you being able to take him down on a game-winning drive when everything's good. Sometimes you got to turn that tide. You got to make that play to make that momentum change for your team. And sometimes it's going to be on him. And, these are the times now where he needs to start, finding that. And, not saying it's going to work every time, but at least he starts getting experience to start learning how to manufacture these things in this league. We were talking about last week with him just locking them on the receivers and not using his eyes to get the receivers off of get the defenders off of the receivers. And, giving his guys a chance to win and, in coverage. So there's certain things that he could be learning and can be, improving on to make his craft better and to make the players around him better. And that's what a true number 1 quarterback does.
I will, real quickly, I will say that I thought he did do a better job of not looking down his receivers in this game because the Ravens would have torched them if he was. So I didn't see that quite as much as I had in the previous week. One other thing I wanted to bring up is the end of this game, or the first half rather. New England had an opportunity to put some points on the board. So they're only down 6-3, and they were, in the red zone. They were driving, had some good momentum going, 30 seconds left on the clock. And a great defensive play gets the guy down. They think they've got enough time, but he's got to either throw it away or score a touchdown or get out of bounds. And he takes a sack and all the time runs out, and they get no points whatsoever. So that's where it sucks to have somebody who doesn't understand because they didn't have any timeouts left. And he kept on trying to call a timeout, but they didn't have any. He's lucky it's not the NBA where you get a penalty for that, but they just don't call it if you don't have any. So, and that's just how they half ended there. So it's interesting. It's only a 6-3 game. I'm pretty impressed by how New England is doing without Cam Newton, but that was a big mistake there where they could have gotten some points.
The hoodie is involved. The team is always in the game. No matter who's the quarterback, Brian Hoyer. We talked about, I think it's been since 2016 he hasn't started. So that was, I guess, a rusty thought process taking that sack one of those timeouts. I was looking at it and so they were, moving the ball pretty well, but I didn't see the total end of what I was doing on my little Washington football spiel right there. But yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting rest of this game being so close. Kansas City is a potent offense, but Belichick is a defensive guru / genius, so he's going to find a way to slow down Andy Reid in that offense. The question is, are they going to be able to put up enough points to beat that Kansas City team that played so well so far? And then we have, I believe it's Green Bay playing Atlanta tonight at 9 o'clock. That should be kicking off shortly. They have the Yankees game on. I'm sure Brian is watching Yankees versus Tampa. Yankees took a 1-0 lead in the first inning. They're in between innings right now. So we got a lot of sports going on right now. It feels pretty damn good. I don't know how someone is at home enjoying all this great sports that's on when everybody's complaining for 4 months with no sports to watch. Well, I tell you, people get spoiled quick.
Right. It's interesting. I'll give my quick take on the Washington football game as well. I think you guys all nailed it. I felt that they played well. I think that the game was as to be expected. I never really thought we were going to beat the Ravens by any stretch of the imagination. Of course, I go into every game hoping that they'll get a W, but I thought that we saw some progression. It's not as much as I would like. I agree with you, Carol, but I don't know how much better they were going to do against that Ravens team. It'll be interesting to see how they do against the Rams this week, who's been a very up and down team. I thought that they were going to blow some of their opponents out of the water, and they haven't. I mean, they definitely played better than the Washington football team. And one thing I got to say is the division is trash. I mean, I know we haven't really talked about it, but I mean, the Cowboys let up a lot of points this week, 49 points, which I thought was
38 points 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah. And that's crazy because, like, you look at their quarterback and he's putting up 350 plus yards 3 weeks in a row, which has never happened. But it's a lot of it's in garbage time where they're like, trying to come back from these ridiculous deficits.
That was Jay Gruden and his stat pattern self back in the day with Kirk Cousins would end up with over 350 yards passing and losing that.
Right, exactly. And then, but I was surprised the Rams only beat the Giants 17-9. It was a much closer game than I would have expected. And then
I'm definitely watching that. The Giants defense was balling out. They're playing more of a ball control game now that Barkley's out. They're letting Daniel Jones have a little bit of freedom, but he's not doing too much. And they're just running the ball and playing solid defense. I was actually watching that game. They were actually in that game into the fourth quarter. I believe it was. I think when I put up 9, I think they were within.
Yeah, it was 10-6 at halftime, and then the Giants scored to make it 10-9, I believe,
Yeah.
and then they were able to score with about 7 minutes left to make it 17. But that's my point, though. I think the Washington football team has a much better chance against the Rams per se than they did against the Ravens. I think that'll be more of a test for me to see how he's improving. Especially there's so few games that they have to play outside of their time zone. I was looking at how many 4 o'clock games. First of all, they have no 8 o'clock games, and they have 2 4 o'clock games remaining, and all the rest of the games are at 1 o'clock, which is crazy. I've never seen so many 1 o'clock games on a single schedule ever. And I've watched football for a long time, but all of their games seem to be on the East Coast, and a lot of the teams that they play on the West Coast are coming to them. We got that Thanksgiving game and one game in December that's a 4 o'clock game, but the rest are all 1 o'clock, which is great because I like 1 o'clock games. So hopefully they can get used to that time and start producing better. But the Eagles, I have to give them a little bit of a shout out there. I hate them, but that was an impressive victory against the 49ers there, especially at the end with the interceptions and just kind of turning it on and just kind of like a 1 minute period. Champ, did you have any thoughts about that one?
I can't really give them a lot of credit because, I mean, the 49ers are basically playing with second and third stringers because a lot of their starters are out. So I can't really give them a lot of credit. They went out and played not really played against the actual 49ers that won the NFC championship last year. But at the same time, they went out and did what they were supposed to do and beat a team they were supposed to beat. So it is what it is. And it's crazy that the fact that they sit at the top of the division with only one win and a tie goes back to your point, Robbie. This division is absolute trash. And then the Cowboys go out and get their asses whooped by the Browns. Even though they came back, they got whooped. Regardless of the scoreboard, they got whooped. Point blank, period. Yeah, Dak went out threw for over 400 yards. That's awesome. Great job, Dak. Awesome. Really good. It shouldn't have been that way. If you're such a quality team, Dak should go out and be throwing over 40 times and throwing for 400 yards against the Browns. Like, come on, let's be for real here. But yeah, Philly, yeah, they did what they had to do, but can they do it again? Is the question. That's my question.
So I got to ask Harold, have you ever heard of a team becoming a brand new first place team in a division with their first win of the season in week 4?
Sad fact that there's only 3 total victories in the whole division after 4 weeks. After a total of 16 games, there have only been 3 victories by these 4 teams. That's pretty bad. So I'm not sure what's going on in NFC East, and Tampa Bay has just tied up this game against the Yankees in the bottom of the first with a solo home run. His name went all around. What it was. But they just tied that up. Garrett Cole just gave up a solo home run in the bottom of the first with 2 outs. I lost my train of thought of what I was talking about. Seeing that home run through the yard.
But we were talking about the division, but
division is it's just trash. There's nothing else you can say. I hate to say it right now that the NFC East might be the worst division in football right now.
Well, it might be one of the worst divisions in history. Like, at the rate they're going, someone might win the division with 4 wins, which would be like an all-time low. But like, I think you have to get at least 3 more wins because of how many times they play each other. But like, it's not looking good for the division. And I wondered though, because does that force Rivera's hand at a certain point to know, hey, we could win the division if we just win a couple of games? Do you think that he might make the move to Kyle Allen or somebody else just to try to win the division if it's so?
This past week, that when he sat down with Haslett, he told him that this play has to improve or a change will be made. And he said after the press conference, I saw that he was, saying with some of the stuff in the fourth quarter, giving him a chance to see how he would react in those situations, i.e. when after the RG3 interception, he was able to get points for the team. Situational football. Like I said, he's learning on the job. He's trying to get better. He's trying to get experience. The only way he can do that is by being on the field. But if you're in a division where, your team is playing well and maybe you can get a spark from another young quarterback that's been in the system a little bit longer that might have more confidence in the, receivers and running the routes and being where they're supposed to be at, that will throw the ball, into those tight windows, unlike Haskins is trying to avoid to do, because he doesn't want to get the turnovers, which I understand. But you gotta do it because the defense is not too fast, not too good. You study film too well for you to just throw to the receiver when they're open. You gotta throw them open sometimes. So I mean, as I said in the post game, I would not have been opposed last week to him putting Allen in, and if he would have put him in this past week when the game was still close, I wouldn't have been upset about it. What does that mean? I want Allen starting going forward, depending on how he plays when he puts him in there. If he looks like he has control of the offense and the team is moving and getting points and winning games, you gotta do what's best for the team. That means Haskins, you gotta sit back and learn and see what he's doing and try to incorporate that into your game when you get the chance, when you get the chance to go back out there and be the starter.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good point. I think if we're winning, obviously you keep him in. But if we're losing by maybe a touchdown or 10 points in the second half, I wouldn't mind seeing what we've got in some of the other guys at this point. Just to know. I mean, I want Haskins to continue to develop, but it's not that he couldn't develop from the bench, and he's got to learn a brand new system. He's had so many different coaches, and we have a player who's played in this system before on our team, and to just say that we never want to take a look at him to see if that would improve our team, especially with the division up for grabs. I wanted to take a look, since we're kind of at the quarter-way mark through the season. Unfortunately, we're only 1-4. That's exactly where I, Brian, Tim, and Benson had us. Carol had 3 wins. Hurt had 3 wins. Dugenet had 2. People's Champ had 2. Leslie had 2. So, they're not far off from where a bunch of us had them. It's interesting that we all had it as an L next week for the Rams. It's one of the very few weeks, that one and the 49ers and the Eagles one that's away. We're the only one where we all had L's before the season started. But the week that we had us all kind of winning against the Browns, except for Arun, we lost. So I'm thinking that maybe if we all didn't believe in them at the beginning of the season, maybe it's topsy-turvy, and maybe this is the week they can get a victory here. But I just thought that was interesting.
Possibly any given Sunday. And Chris Howe just mentioned on my feed that Bill O'Brien was relieved of his duties down in Houston today. In case you didn't catch that breaking news earlier.
Wow.
After trading and as also a 0-4 start has been relieved of his head coaching and general manager position.
Yeah, because he's one of the very few that do both. That's an interesting position. All right. Well, I'll let.
They got Bill Bryan the fuck out of here.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting, though.
Both in the first place, he wasn't the right person for both of those roles.
Really? Because I didn't think he was that bad. But obviously, I was wrong because the proof is in the pudding. But when they made that move, I was like, oh, it's an interesting move because then the coach gets the players that he wants. But I'll let Tim and Champ give their final thoughts on that and anything they want to talk about. I'll go with Tim first, and then we'll switch into some hockey talk to end the show. But Tim, any final thoughts? Congratulations to your Ravens once again.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, I think one thing we didn't really touch on that was huge was just the special teams play, and that fake punt pass was maybe the play of the game. But I think it was a great show overall. Great to talk to everybody. We really are lucky, like Carol said, to have all these sports. Next month is kind of a drought, so enjoy it while you can, because it's going to be only NFL soon. So I guess savor it.
Yep, for sure. Thank you, Tim. Well,
good night, everybody. See you guys.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Champ, let us know what's really quickly happening on your the No Spots podcast this week.
Listen, man, it's a lot going on. New Japan's G1 Climax. They have 6 shows coming up this week in the next 7 days. Their first was already today. They got 5 more coming up. So we got a packed G1 Climax recall coming up next Monday. We got a packed No Spots coming up this Sunday. We're going to recap TakeOver, which was an awesome pay-per-view. And we're going to also talk about Victory Road from Impact Wrestling. We're going to talk about the fallout from TakeOver, plus Raw and SmackDown. They're getting ready to have a draft where people are going to switch brands. So we're going to talk about all of that this week. And on a side note, oh my goodness, Bill O'Brien, man, it took this long to get him fired. That's ridiculous. The fact that he gave up his top receiver for basically a pack of Newports and an Everfresh, it's crazy that he still had a job. But that's all from me. Thank you for having me on these 2 segments. I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you so much, Sam. That's awesome. All right. Well, I think
Hi, Anna.
We got Anna, I think, coming on right now.
Hi.
That's a good segue.
I feel like one of these points we're gonna have to be on the same little although this is my last one, so boo.
I know, for a little bit. I mean, and then we'll have hockey back soon enough again. And I mean, if you ever want to talk football with us, you can always,
I love football.
Yeah, so maybe when we play the 49ers or something, we can have you back on to chat about that or something.
That works for me. So how are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Doing pretty good. Got some sports going on. Got the Yankees Tampa Bay game on. I got the New England Kansas City game on, the Green Bay Atlanta game about to kick off. So yeah, I'm living life right now. Sports heaven right now.
Can't wait. Except for that Niners Eagles game.
I know. I'm sorry that I had to bring that up, but you know, it changed our divisional matchup. It turned it upside down in one game, right? So
it did. It did. So it's all good. It's all good. But yes, we were here to wrap up that one final game.
Yeah, and I've got some other Caps news and notes that we'll also break down, and also stuff around the league as well. So we'll make it a more well-rounded, more than just one period that we didn't discuss last week. You know, well, let's just start with it. The Tampa Bay did end up, as we predicted, you know, winning the Cup that night. Anna, let us know how the rest of that game went. Or you can start from the beginning of the game for those who didn't follow last week.
I mean, honestly, it really comes down to Tampa Bay 1-2. They shut them out. You know, it was 2-0. It was, I wish I could say that I could hype up Dallas as much as I did the other games, but they really just didn't. They just didn't come with it that night. They truly just looked tired and just kind of over it, which is so disappointing because there had been so many talks about how they rallied as a team, being quote unquote the underdog, which we all know the Caps went through that in 2018, and I was pulling for them. It just was not their night, and it certainly was Tampa Bay's night. And I think that it's, you know, I was happy for them. I was happy for the players, and I just have to laugh at for a good, I don't know, hour or so. We're just going to pretend like COVID didn't exist.
Right. So yeah, there's a couple of things to unpack more than just the game itself, because obviously this is the first big championship that's been given out during the COVID era. And so we didn't, you know, they could do all the precautions they want to do while they're in the bubble. What happens after the bubble, after a city goes crazy and wins a championship, the league has nothing that they can do, right? So they obviously put lots of warnings and suggestions, and all those were thrown to the wind. So starting off with the Cup celebration, I thought it was really interesting that the captain got to hold the cup over his head, even though he didn't really play. Some people thought he shouldn't have been the first to hoist it because he wasn't so involved. It's interesting to see his teammates say, hey, he's been in the locker room the whole time. It turns out it sounds like he had a pulled groin muscle. And then when he was recovering for that, he had an additional injury, which I haven't seen the disclosed additional injury. But sometimes that happens when you're trying to rehab something. You come back to try to fight it so much. And I think that maybe that's what happened in that other game where he finally came back, but then he injured something else. And it's difficult when you've been out of conditioning of playing for so long and you're rehabbing and you're playing with the team. But obviously he still meant a lot to the team for them to give him the cup. And I understand he's the captain, but you don't have to give it to him first. You could give it to the MVP, who was just awarded as well. What were your thoughts on the MVP and him getting the cup? You know?
I honestly, Stamkos getting it first, I was okay with that. I felt like it was a class act from the players, because it wasn't just about the games in the bubble. It was about the leadership and you know, I don't even know what else, like skills and everything else prior to that. And then plus knowing, you know, that we were going into such a shady thing with with COVID and all that kind of stuff. I feel like he was still a huge presence for Tampa Bay. So why not? I mean, for us, it was completely different to see, like, there wasn't anybody other than Ovechkin that was going to take that cup and raise it first. But I felt like Stamkos, like, he deserved it, and you know, regardless of the times that he played during that series.
Right. I mean, he's been the captain for a very long time, and they've gotten close, and they've been building for years, for sure. Carol, what are some of your thoughts on the MVP decision and him getting the cup first?
I really don't have a problem with him getting the cup first. He's been there for a while. He's been putting up good numbers, been the captain for a little while. They've had the disappointment and heartbreak, and I don't really have a problem with him getting the cup first. And who was the MVP? Wasn't it Kucherov?
Mm-hmm. Right. Was it Kucherov who did it? Oh, now there was two that were close, right? It was MVP. Now I'm not sure. Now you're making me question it because there was two that I knew that it was.
I think it was Kucherov.
I thought so too.
I think it was Kucherov. I mean, I think he's the one that scored in overtime. I think he's the one that scored in overtime. And he's been playing solid throughout the whole playoff.
No, Victor Hedman won. Yeah, exactly. That's why I was like, I think it was Hedman, but I couldn't remember. But like both of them were in the running. But I think Victor Hedman won just by a couple of votes, if I remember. And yeah, I mean, his defense was obviously really important. But yeah, Carol, go on. What were you saying?
Yeah, but I mean, it was a good series, like you said. All pretty much said everyone is closing out at 6, and I really can't be mad on this last Stamkos got his stuff after Ovi because he got it before. I don't think that was Victoria that hyped up in the DMV that Stamkos would have raised a cup before Ovi and yada 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 yada. So it was a new experience, the bubble, the whole playoff situation. It was interesting. Congratulations to Tampa Bay. Good job winning the cup. Hopefully the Capitals can get it together and make another run, see if they can get Ovi another cup, if he resigns, because they're still in negotiations for an extension. So we'll see what plays out. I know Robbie probably got some notes. We're going to talk about some of the goings on that's been going on behind Kurt.
Oh, for sure. But I wanted to point out I was actually wrong. Braden Point was actually second place, who also had a great playoffs.
And he had a fantastic playoff. I mean, really, truly was almost like it was a name that I brought up, I think, and
a lot of times, yeah,
a lot of times, just to say, like, here, as a kid that went to watch and absolutely just was fantastic during the season.
And so they had four really great players. The voting was very close. So, because Kucherov was third and Vasilevsky was fourth. And Vasilevsky had a great playoffs as well. It reminded me very much like Holtby-esque in the fact that he took over a bunch of games himself. And he played in every Lightning game in a 2-month tournament. Both Kucherov and I think Vasilevsky, they both played in every game, and so that's pretty impressive, right? So
absolutely,
they had a really solid team, and I feel like the best team won, and it was really a bummer that last game had to go up against a bunch of other stuff, and it didn't really do well in the ratings. I alluded to it earlier on that the NHL ratings had gone way down, and unfortunately, that's one of the lowest ratings final games in modern history, and it's disappointing because I thought it was a good series. I understand that Tampa and Dallas, it's not like huge markets or anything like that, but I was impressed by the playoffs. I hope that no one considers it an asterisk or whatever. Right. I feel like them, even more than the NBA, I really feel like in hockey it's a gauntlet, and they had to win more than 16 games. They had to. I mean, I guess the teams didn't have to play in the play-in round, really, but like they still played more games, and it's still all wear and tear, and it's still 2 months in the bubble away from your family, and so.
Oh yeah, well, and there was a double overtime, and there were back-to-back, so you can't say that the players the Stars and the Lightning who played in the series, kind of had. They only played, say, half the time, or they only played 30 minutes and, a couple of games. No, they gave it their all. And I agree with you. I think this was a fantastic series. And I was asked to be on Josh Kirby's podcast last week to talk about, kind of wrapping up the NHL. And he had asked if kind of who I was pulling for, but also who I thought was going to be, people to look out for next season. And I would never count out Dallas for next season. Wouldn't count out the Islanders, the Avalanche, and the Capitals. Those I think are going to be your 4 hot teams next season to watch out for sure. And I just think Dallas is just, now they've been through this, they're going to make some tweaks, and they want to re-sign Khudobin, and they'll see what happens with that. And yeah.
It's crazy that a goalie that old and has been around for that long just has a swan song. So that's a good segue. Carol, do you have any final thoughts before I segue into the next thing?
Into the king.
No, I know we're already going, so go ahead and go to the break.
All right. So the goalie situation, right? I mean, Braden's leaving, sadly, I think, because it's just going to cost us too much, and we have too many goalies in the pipeline, and we need a veteran to lead, but we don't need it at $6 to $10 million. We need someone to take veteran minimum and try to lead from that, or maybe we could just go with a bunch of young guys, but we don't have the cap space. The cap space isn't going up, so it's very difficult. But obviously Henrik Lundqvist was just taken out of the Rangers, and it's disappointing because I was hoping he would end his career with them, but I understand they're trying to move in direction, and they also are cap strapped. But because they bought him out of the contract, that means he's still going to be paid for next year, and he could take a veteran minimum deal and still make a good deal on a 1 year.
Exactly.
And I think the cup at this point's got to be the most important thing for him, right? He's done everything else, and I think that if he were to come to Washington and he could, maybe be the starter for the beginning of the year, because we just don't know the situation, with the back injury or the shoulder injury or whatever it is with the ATV accident. And I like Phoenix Copley, and I like Vanacek and stuff like that, and I like where our goalie situation is going in the future. But it's not a lot of playoff experience, right? Of any of those. And here's a guy who's more playoff experience than almost anybody else. And he's just, been missing out on defense and secondary scoring and all these sort of situations in his career. But he could come to a team where it could be a Philadelphia coach, an ex-Philadelphia coach, with a Washington, D.C. scorer, and he could be that New York, goalie. They could try to, put a cup together, the three of them. And wouldn't that be a beautiful story? I'll start with you, Carol. What are your thoughts on taking one last kick to the tires for a cheap price and seeing what he could do?
I wouldn't be opposed to that. We saw what Fleury did when he went out to Vegas during the expansion draft, and getting them to the finals and getting them a year after. Lundqvist, he's one of the elite goalies in the game right now, maybe in NHL history, you could probably argue. And I wouldn't be mad at it, especially with Samsonov being injured, not being able to make the bubble, not knowing his status going into next season. I wouldn't be opposed to Lundqvist joining the Capital squad, and that would be a great fairy tale story to make that happen. It's always possible. But I'll say I know Brian probably going to fall off his rocker when I say this. I've never really been a huge Lundqvist fan. He's a great goalie, but I just don't see him in the same light as most folks see him as one of the top.
The problem, I see where you're going with that, Carol, because I think he's a great regular season goalie and he's great in the playoffs, but he hasn't got to that next level, right? He hasn't made it all the way and showed up in that final matchup. I know Brian's watching his Yankees, but I do see that he's on. If he does want to come in and defend Lundqvist's legacy, which I don't think it needs defense. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's an incredible goalie.
They're happy now because Clint Frazier just hit a solo home run, giving the Yankees a 2-1 lead in the top of the third.
Yeah, there you go. So,
so great to Brian.
Exactly. But it'll be interesting to see, what they end up deciding to do on that. And stuff like that. Brian, do you want to come on? I'll let him if he wants.
What's up, guys?
Oh, there he is.
How's it going?
I know that you must be excited.
Yeah, Carol, you spoiled that home run for me, but it's all good. It helps the Yankees. I'm okay with it.
Those damn delays.
Yes, those damn delays.
Yeah.
So we're breaking news here on SportsOTHP, right? So
I figured you was watching. I figured you was probably running around the bases in your living room.
Yeah, I have to learn with Brian. He's on a 1 minute delay. So
yeah, I'm at least a a minute behind. Thanks, because
Yeah.
I'm streaming and everybody else is on cable.
Yeah. So, but there you go. At least you're happy. What do you
Yes.
think? I know that you had mentioned privately to me you didn't really want him to go to a division rival, which I totally respect that. But what are your thoughts? Do you think that would make sense for Washington from their perspective, or?
Yeah, I of all the division teams, I would actually you'd probably be the least team that I don't know if I'm saying this right, but I'd be okay with him going to the Caps the most. Like that'd be okay with me. He'd be a good fit. I feel like the young goalies on the Caps, like Samsonov, could really learn from him. I really want to see I want to see the Rangers win the Stanley Cup first, but I want to see Henrik Lundqvist win a Stanley Cup too. So I think any chance he gets to win a Stanley Cup would be great. I would prefer if it was out of the division. Like I would prefer if it was somewhere in the Western Conference, but that's just my personal preference. But if he wins the Stanley Cup, I won't be mad. I want Henrik Lundqvist to get his ring.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, how about we flip it? Because I feel like his time is short. We win it next year. You get a year to get Lafreniere up and running, and then you can win it the following year. And I'll be. And then we both
all
win,
right,
right?
all right. I can live with that. I guess that's fine. I guess, yeah.
That's all good.
So speaking of Lafreniere, real quickly, you think? I mean, that's what everyone thinks is going to happen on Tuesday with the draft. But do you think that the Rangers would do something crazy and something else, or?
No, I think it's Lafreniere is such a slam dunk. They got to pick him. I don't see it going any other way. I mean, this is what they've been talking about since they got the #1 pick. So I don't see them going any other different direction. This is the Rangers, so they could do something completely crazy, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's crazy to think that the draft is going to come up so quickly because this off season is going to be abbreviated. They're going to do an entire couple-month off season into like a 2-month condensed off season, including the draft on Tuesday, and free agency I believe opens maybe Friday, so at least some sort of. I don't know if it's restricted or unrestricted at that point, but it all kind of goes very quickly because the idea and the hope is in November that they come back and do training camp. So that way they could start sometime in December. There's rumors it might get pushed back to January, but I think that they've seen by having the delayed schedule too much and having to try to compete with the NFL and other things, they really don't want it to end when it did for ratings purposes. They really want it to end during the summer, I think, would be better for them than in the fall. So they don't have a lot of wiggle room if they want to try to get all the 80 games in there as well. Brian, do you have any other thoughts about the draft of free agency with the Rangers before we let you go back and watch your Yankees some more?
No, shout out to Mark Stahl. He's another Ranger who was around for a long time that got traded about a week ago. So he got traded to Detroit. He was never the greatest Ranger or anything, but he was here for 13 years. So he deserves some love. So shout out to Mark Stahl. And I'm looking forward to the Rangers draft tomorrow night. We'll see who we get.
Yeah, wasn't he a captain of you guys for?
No, he was an alternate captain. And also, on that note, shout out to Ryan McDonough for winning the Stanley Cup. The former Ranger captain getting his ring with Tampa Bay. I'm happy about it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. There was a couple of former players, including some Capitals that got Cubs. With Shattenkirk.
Shattenkirk, another former Ranger.
Right, another former Ranger and stuff like that. And then hometown hero Jeff Halpern from Potomac. He's an assistant coach on Tampa Bay. So I was super happy that, and he's a longtime Capital, not Shattenkirk, that was like a year or two or whatever that was. But people are really beloved by Jeff Halpern. And in fact, he was the one who trained Haley Skrupa, who's had on the show in the past. And she had talked about how influential he was in her training in her life as a young teenager, and so it's really cool that he's gotten to train an Olympian, play for the Washington Capitals, and now become a champion in his own right and get his name on the Stanley Cup.
That's very cool. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so I'm happy about that. Well, thank you, Brian, for jumping back on and
no problem.
Update, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, no problem. Let's go Yankees. Have a good night, guys.
Have a good night. All right. With that, I've got a couple other quick news and notes that I'm going to run through, and I'll get your guys' thoughts on them, and then we'll get out of here. First of all, Matt Niskanen retired today, so that's breaking news.
Yeah.
He said he only wanted to play for another year or two. I know that we had a salary cap dump him, and it's unfortunate that he has to retire a Flyer and not a Capital, right? That would be, but maybe someday he'll like do a one-day signing, and with the Caps or something like that. And so that was really cool. Best of luck to him. I understand with the COVID and the uncertainty and him getting older, and I think it's probably the right time. I mean, he got his cup, and it's just so much uncertainty going into next year.
Yeah.
Carol, I'll get your thoughts first on his retirement, and then I'll get Anna's.
I was a Matt Niskanen fan. Wasn't a fan when he came to Pittsburgh, but I definitely enjoyed this game when he played here. Loved that he, like I said, got the cup here. Unfortunately, he had to get traded due to the salary cap situation. I would love to see him come back here and help him try to go on another run. But it's about being healthy. Quality of life. Like I said, he got his ring. He got his cup. Town. So I mean, if you want to ride off to the sunset, I can't be mad at him. But I definitely did like his play. He's always solid. Defensively, sometimes he added some offensive flair every now and again. But it's unfortunate that he would be retiring a Flyer instead of a Capital. But we still got 2018 now. Still got.
Yeah, Anna, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's always hard when a player goes to any Pennsylvania area. But I feel like just nothing but respect. You have to understand that these players are getting older, and he knows what's, they have to start listening to their bodies and what's going on in their families. And COVID has kind of, shifted things. We don't have those Patrick Marleau players who have been, and, Joe Thornton who've been playing forever. I feel like that's kind of going to start dying out. Well, I shouldn't say dying out because that sounds terrible, but decreasing. How about that? Because COVID, I think people are starting to think about things a little bit differently. But yeah, nothing but respect for Niskanen, and
I have to say I don't think we realized how much we lost until we lost him, right? So
yeah,
I thought him for Gudas, I thought, it's a salary cap dump, and if Gudas can play decent, it'd be okay. I don't think Gudas played that great, but
no.
I mean, I don't think he was the same quality. That's why you do a salary cap dump. You rarely get same quality in return for a lot less money. But I think there was so many intangibles that we couldn't calculate back then that we realize now looking back that he really brought a lot to the table for us. And
but I mean, that's like that, that like the crystal ball. Same thing with Burakovsky and, other player, Shattenkirk. I mean, it's like all of a sudden there just needed to be in a different situation, or we just, didn't realize their skill level or whatever it was. So yeah, it happens.
Right, and that just happens, and you see resurgence, and sometimes being in a new environment sparks new blood and new fans and new, you want to, show off for the new team or whatever, and I get that. And so a touchdown was just scored in this Kansas City New England game, which is good for me, not so good for Carol.
Wait, who scored? Kansas City?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just horrible. New England was driving. Brian Hoyer was taking him down to get ready to score. And then he holds the ball too long, gets a sack fumble. Then Kansas City gets the ball back, and then immediately Patrick Mahomes links up with Travis Kelce for like a 50-yard throw down the field to put them in rhythm and to get a touchdown. They were right at the door to get ready to either tie the game or possibly take the lead. And the momentum swung that quickly, and Kansas City put their foot on their throat, and now they're up 13-3.
Now, who's playing for Cam Newton?
Brian Hoyer.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's about right. Yeah.
Okay. My pick today. I'm rooting for Hoyer in the hoodie, but I don't think so.
Yeah, Carol forgot to switch his pick. I still didn't think Kansas City was going to lose just because how they played Baltimore last week. But overall, So that's crazy because this game got moved. Kansas City played 2 Monday Night Football games in a row. I just realized that. That just all came to my head. I was like, that's a rare thing. I don't know if I've ever seen that before.
Is a Tennessee game, Tennessee Pittsburgh? Are they like my football poll said they were canceled? So what does that mean?
No, it was canceled yesterday, but I think it was happening today, right? Or unless it got canceled.
They're actually going to postpone it later on in the season because another Tennessee player and came up sick.
Wow, that's breaking news to me. I thought.
I believe that came out a couple of days ago. So
yeah. I'm sorry. The later game
is the Green Bay Atlanta.
The Packers game, right?
Right. I was getting them confused. Right. That sucks because now the Ravens will miss their Thanksgiving game with the Steelers because that's the week they're going to postpone it to. And then the Ravens will get their bye a week early. They were getting the week after Thanksgiving. Instead, they'll get Thanksgiving off and then play the Steelers the next week, I believe. So that's how they kind of switched it up. But it just shows that there's not a lot of wiggle room, in these schedules. They get one bye week, and you can't really double up in football like you can in baseball and other things. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes forward with these teams, and if they get all their games in. I didn't know if it would make week 5, so I'm happy to say that we're entering week 5, but I'm still nervous that the whole season won't happen.
Yeah, it's a little, sure. I think after the Tennessee announcement, I was starting to think like, oh, here we go. Like this could be this could be like the avalanche that starts to like take everybody out, because if you look at, not that we need to talk about the NFL, but when you look at the players and the coaches on the sidelines, they're so minimal mask wearing, or they have it, but it's down, and the players, and they're together.
Yeah, they're really bad about it. They're really
bad about it. And it's like, I know they're finding the coaches, but even watching the
players also, I believe Derek Carr and tight end Derek Waller for the Las Vegas got found for not wearing masks also.
Yeah, but it's just they can't find them all, and I see a lot of players with them down. And they'll do it for.
They're going to go back and find that's why they get penalties sometimes. They go back and look at the tape, and they penalize players sometimes for stuff that wasn't called in the game. So that's believe that if they're going to enforce it, they're going to start hitting everybody with it.
Yeah, they got it, because I don't know if they've done it enough over the first 4 weeks, to be honest.
They're testing every day except for game day. And, I feel like, 4 weeks, all these teams, with this being, though Tennessee and, Minnesota in that circumstance, I think that's, okay, for just, for that many games to be played, and for that to be the only time that someone has popped up, situations popped up. So hopefully they figure out, where the loophole was or whatever caused, because they're testing the players and the staff every day. They're at the training facility except for game day. So they're trying to be as safe as possible. So I'm hopeful that they'll find whatever glitch or whatever person caused that outbreak, and get their finger on it, and hopefully the season can continue.
It's so scary to think about, though, when you have when Cam Newton, if he tests positive, because he's the person everyone's listening to in the huddle. So it's like his voice is coming out, and then who knows how much it's spreading, and his leadership on the sideline. That's what freaks me out, is like, oh man, like it's just wildfire. So it's kind of crazy. So I didn't know if they had rescheduled the game or not. So, okay. So Thanksgiving sounds like that Tennessee Pats game.
Yeah, for sure. So a couple other quick news and notes. So there's some rumors that Ilya Kovalchuk wants to go back to Montreal. Brendan Dillon wants to resign with us or go to his hometown, which is Vancouver. And the Caps re-sign Lucas Johansson on a 2-way deal if he ends up playing for the Caps, which he's kind of been passed on the depth chart. But if he does end up going for the Caps, it'll be only $700K for us. So we'll talk about those 3 Capitals news and notes first, and then we'll end with a little more talk on Tampa and COVID. But Anna, what are your thoughts on those 3 sort of?
About Kovalchuk, I think there was a hype. I was looking forward to it, and I just never felt like he did what everyone talked about. Kind of came in, oh, Russian, and he's this and he's that, and he's, but I didn't see it. So I kind of feel, like if he doesn't want to return or the Caps don't want him back, I'm kind of okay with it. To be honest, it's, it's, whatever.
It was a bit of a failed experiment,
Very much so. Like I felt like every game I was kind of hoping, I was like, okay, this is going to be the one where he's going to prove himself. It was kind of like a Gudis, where I was like, all right, this is going to be the one. And it just, never happened. Brendan Dillon, I know he wants to sign as a Cap, had a good chemistry with the team. I'd like to have him back. I don't know what'll happen there. I hadn't heard that he wanted to go anywhere else, but it's a business and they're gonna come down to money, I guess, and contracts. But I felt like he meshed well with the Capitals coming from the West Coast to here, so I was kind of hoping he would stay. What was the last one? I felt like a goalie. No.
It was, hold on, sorry. It was the re-signing of Lucas Johansson.
Oh, right. And like you said, it was, 700,000, a ton of potential, but what they do at Hershey versus what happens in the NHL, I need to see more of that before I can say, yes, it's fantastic. We all want to see them succeed, but sometimes it's a big step, just like college football and the NFL. You're just like, what? So, I'm rooting for him. I never thought he was one that we should disregard, but I don't know if I have enough love to say, either way.
Right, that makes sense. Carol, do you have any thoughts on any of those stories?
Kovalchuk, I'd like to see him stay for a whole season to see what he might be able to add to the team. If the deal is worth it, nothing huge. If he wants a huge contract, then I say let him walk.
Lucas Johansson.
Not even sure who that is. I remember the name vaguely.
Yeah.
Draft pick from 2 years ago or something like that.
I think so. I'm not sure. I know that he was decent.
If he can get up to the team and add something to it and make him better, I don't have no problems with it, man. We need some quality scoring. I'm still holding on to that Forsberg trade, but him what we could be using with him right now. I'm still about 4 or 5 years ago, so how I feel about it. But more scoring, more quality, depth is always something this team can use going forward because they know what it took to win the cup, and now you just got to go back and do it again.
What a touchdown right there. So New England's right back with a great strike to the corner of the end zone. And they're an extra point away of making it a field goal game, 10-3. So nice stutter step to the back corner. Yeah. Stutter step to the back corner, and then he kind of drove himself back in a little bit and made a great readjustment to on the ball. It was a nice touchdown.
And that was after a pass interference call on the 5.
Yeah, because they almost intercepted it, but it was called pass interference.
Great interception if he hadn't pass interference on the 5-yard line.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting game. I'm still rooting for New England to pull this one out so I can keep my #1 rank.
Go Kansas City. I want to get those points. I'm right behind him, man, if you missed it earlier on the thing. So I'm only 4 points behind him, so this could get me a point back.
Here, baby. #1 on the way. #1 on the way, baby.
Right, exactly. So which is why we do it. So shout out to Hurt. Thank you for putting it on once again. Makes it fun to watch some of the other football games, even if it's not. And Anna, now that I know that you actually do these kind of tournaments too, we should have you in our league next year and join us.
Yeah, please do, because I will say I made the biggest mistake ever in talking to my brother, who's a diehard Spurs fan, like Mr. Sportscaster USA kind of thing. And I was like, I don't know, I'm not really feeling the Niners. And he's like, well, they're playing at home and they've got injuries, but Kittle's back. I was like, you know what, you're right. And I changed my pick from
always bet against your team.
From Philly to, and then here I was last night at 11:40, looking at my phone being like, are you kidding me? 25 And had I stuck with my gut, I would have been in first place in my football pool, but now I'm in third.
Oh no!
And
Well,
so,
but luckily there's still a lot of weeks, so
right.
you'll be okay.
It's all
All right.
good.
The last topic we'll talk about for the night is that Stanley Cup celebration behavior, crazy boat, journey that they took the cup on a boat ride, which I like that idea. So they could be
Right.
crazy on these boats and they're kind of away from the people. But they also went to where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play, and they sort of, but they only had like 15,000, and I'm sure that place holds like 60,000. So I'm sure
Right.
that they're still spread out enough. But the problem was they keep on drinking out of the cup together with
Yes.
fans.
Yes.
And just, and I'm like, I get it. Every team before has done it, but like, there's some real health safety risks with that. Like,
There is.
Hold up. Flag on the play. Time out. 15 yards. Hold fast. We're in the middle of a pandemic. You're in Florida, one of the hotbeds for this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to commit to drinking. I understand it's a Stanley Cup. I understand. But really, you're going to drink out of the cup of people that you don't. Ooh, boy.
For a second there, I thought you were going to defend it and be like, "Wait a sec, I got to hear this."
No, I'm a huge sports fan too. And if it was 2018 and it was a pandemic going on, and I had a chance to see the cup, would I have drunken out of it? I cannot make that statement because I don't know. But on the outside looking in, I'm gonna get on I'm gonna have to get on the positive side of it. That's a no.
Well, there was a lot of like everything that goes into celebrating trophy cup.
Everybody had a straw, maybe.
Yeah, but even then,
backwash, right? I guess it's diluted. It's a big cup, but it's like still.
There was a lot of kissing, a lot of the cup and of players and drinking out of the cup and like everything that you would expect of a team. But then you have to take that step back and be like, but COVID, but wait a minute. So it does concern me that I like for the safety of the players, for the health of the players, that it was risky. But they get into that, like, I don't care, like we won, and they're going to go and do what they want to do. But
we'll be interested to see how many of those players are sick to start the next season, right? I don't know.
I know.
I hope all of them went and got tested the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, but it did bring the ire of the NHL. The NHL did contact the team and question them, but I don't know what that means, right? I mean, they'll be like, no, you shouldn't have done that.
You should have been there, but season over, so we got
right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the worst they could do is give a penalty, like a monetary to the team, but like, what is that going to do at this point, right?
Well, if I couldn't even imagine that they would be like, I'm sorry, but there's no more fountain swimming for the Capitals players. Is like, screw that. They were in every fountain, and rightfully so. And so now I'm like,
Carol, like, what would we have done if this was 2018? Yeah. Like, I'm so blessed that I got to stand in the line and got to touch the cup, got to kiss the cup myself. I am so happy. That parade was fantastic. I'm happy that the Nats won it just before. Think about this baseball one would be. As much as I want the Caps to win it every year, I'm kind of in some ways happy that they didn't, because I don't need a resurgence in this area. And that there would be Caps fans that would have totally still gone to a parade and done stuff, right? There's no way
100%,
we'd be fooling ourselves to say that they wouldn't be. Maybe it wouldn't be as big as 2018 because it just happened, but like even half would be a lot. And so like, I don't know. It's a tough thing. But I did think it was pretty funny, for sure. They also happen to play golf with it afterwards without any masks on whatsoever. So even though they're out of the bubble, it's not a good look, right? I just think you're trying to be, and I'm wondering now, the NBA is next with the next championship. Obviously, I don't think the Heat would be any different if they win it all, right? Like that, Miami's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder for LA. LA's had a lot of issues. They're starting to get better, but it'll be interesting to see what they would do if they won it. But it's so it's going to be interesting to see what happens at the next championship. But Carol, any final thoughts on any of that news?
Nah, that's pretty much it. I'm watching this game. It was a questionable call. Patrick Mahomes escaped some pressure. Was running out of bounds. And one of the New England defenders reached for him right before he got out of bounds. And once he made contact, Mahomes fell on the sideline awkwardly. They gave him a 15-yard unnecessary roughness penalty on a third down play that extends that gives Kansas City new life. So it was interesting there. I can see them calling a penalty because it did look like something happened, but
you can't touch the quarterback out of bounds. Just don't do it.
I mean, he wasn't out of bounds. He was still in bounds when he reached for him, but the fact that he made contact when he was out of bounds with his hand and he lost his balance, it looks like.
But see, the thing is, it's the horse collar. It's the fact that where he grabbed him.
Yeah, then he didn't even do anything for real.
He didn't do anything with it, but just that it's a bad look, right? Just the optics. It's just
crazy how that happens sometimes. And Mahomes almost threw the interception. It should have been an interception.
Oh yeah, no, I just saw it. You're a little ahead of me.
I'll see it in like an hour.
I'm not streaming today. I actually got the cable on today, so I'm not.
Yeah, I know you're 1.2 seconds ahead of me. So
I'm dead for a change. I ain't behind.
There you go. And so again, the Yankees are up 2-1. But Anna, any final thoughts on anything hockey related? We'll definitely have you back on in just a couple of months when all the training camps and all that comes. So it's not too long of a break now. Nope. Not as long as it usually is.
I know, and I feel like it's gonna go fast. Like I'm already like, oh my God, it's October, so here we go. But no, it's been fantastic during COVID to talk any kind of sports with you guys. You're my two favorites. So yeah, we'll be in contact, and I really hope the Washington football team turns it around for you guys. I know.
Appreciate that. I hope that the 49ers do as well.
You and me, but I'm like,
let me know when you're ready to trade that Honda in
there. There you go.
Right. So that's great. But yeah, so take care, stay healthy, since we're always talking about COVID, and we will definitely be in touch over the next little bit.
Yeah, my school's just announced that they're going back in just a couple of weeks. So I don't know. You're still doing January? Is that still the plan?
Yeah. We were told, like the enhanced audit group, and that was going to go actually next week. And then they kind of teetered it out. And so January is when we're supposed to go back, but only 2 days a week.
Yeah, we're doing 4 days a week, 2 and 2. Like we're splitting them into two different groups and things like that. So
that'll be interesting to see how that all works out. It sounds like we all want it, but there's so many.
I know, it's so nerve-wracking. There's a lot of things. For me, it's like it's the beginning of the school year all over again, because now I have to like reset all of our old things, bus transportation. I was working on all of that, trying to figure out logistics all day. So it's
and parents who were saying like, nope, we're staying home, and then they change their mind and all of our stuff just switches. So at this point, I'm planning on going back 2 days a week in January, but right now I'm just riding the virtual wave and doing what I can.
Well, best of luck to you on that, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. And Carol, I hope you sell some cars soon.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. I'm going to sell some soon. You have a good night. We'll catch you next time.
All right. Take care.
All right. What a fun show. I thought we would keep it to under 2 hours. Of course, I'm usually wrong. It seems to be about our sweet spot. So I'm happy that we got to talk a couple different sports with Anna. She's always great, and I look forward to hockey season returning soon. And just like that, it's a touchdown, Kansas City.
Play called jet sweep to the wide receiver. He wanted that. He wanted that joint. determined.
Mm-hmm.
After that 15-yard serve, after spending that aided in that score. So New England has some answering back to do. They got a new quarterback in, and want to see what was it, Strohan does, because Brian Hoyer was sticking up the joint.
Really? So the one who scored the last one wasn't Hoyer? That they switched
No, they
quarter?
pulled Hoyer after he had that fumble on the when they were driving to get the tying score. Belichick don't play that. He had threw an interception and then he had fumbled, so Belichick pulled him.
Oh, that is no good on the extra point. It's now a 9-point game. The hoodie might win by 1 tonight. We'll see.
That off the break.
Yeah, that just curved. Interesting. I've seen a lot of just mixed extra points this year. I mean, obviously them moving it back a bit made it a little bit more interesting. It's not like it.
Definitely, but they would give me the 22-yard, and now it's 32 yards. There's more room for error, and if they don't stick to, like we talked about Haskins with his techniques and mechanics, that's every position. If the kicker doesn't go through his mechanics perfectly every time and consistently, that's what happens.
Sounds good. Well, I want to do a couple of quick announcements at the end of this show. Next week will be episode 198 as we're on the road to 200. We're getting there. So we'll start with our baseball, playoff talk. We'll continue that. We'll bring the guys back on to recap what might be the end of the NBA Finals, or we'll preview a potential Game 7, I guess it would be. I guess I never actually mentioned in the NBA segment when those games are. So just real fast, I'm going to mention those just because I think there are some people that might be interested. Tuesday is the next game. That's game 4. Then Friday is game 5 at 9. And then Sunday it's about to 7:30. That's the game 6. That's the game where I think the Lakers will win it in. And then if it goes to a game 7, it would be on Tuesday at 9 o'clock. So we'll either recap a 6-game or less series, or we'll preview a game 7 next week in that. And then we'll talk Washington football and their big game against the Rams, which I think will be a telling game for the future of this team in this season. We'll see how Haskins does. And then that'll be it. We don't have any hockey talk after that. So it'll be a slightly abbreviated show. I also want to let people know about our big show on Thursday. So it's sorry. I wanted to get all my information up here for it. So it's going to be on Thursday at 10 o'clock, which is 7 o'clock Western time, or Pacific time. Walter Roberts is a former American football wide receiver and kick return specialist in the NFL. He played for the Browns, the New Orleans Saints, and he played for when they were called the Washington Redskins. He played for Compton High School. He also played for a championship team back in the day. So we thought it'd be kind of fun to interview an ex-ball player from the 60s and into 1970 and talk about that time period when the NFL had their merger, and ask a couple of questions about what it was like to play in that time and to play for a legendary coach in Vince Lombardi in his last season as a coach before he died of cancer. So a lot of interesting topics to discuss with him. Again, that's Walter Roberts. It'll be 10 o'clock live, and then we'll clip it up and put it on all of our podcast platforms. We'll clip this up and put it on our website, sportsothp.com, after the show. It'll be up probably tomorrow. And then all week long, we'll be clipping up these different segments and releasing those as well. And then Carol does some pre- and post-game shows when he has the opportunity and he's not selling Hondas. And so I look forward to those as well as they come. And obviously he's on At the Bar Radio as well. Carol, any other final closing thoughts before we head out of here?
Let's see. Come holler at me down at Honda Waldorf. We do more than just Hondas. You can see any car you want. Buick, Chrysler, Cadillac. Got access to the Waldorf Auto Group, so don't just think it's just Hondas, SUVs, trucks, vans. We do it all. Make sure you hit us up. SportsOTHP Apparel. Got to give a shout out to Eric, who's in the side, working on a commercial for them. You've seen some of the pictures we've been putting out. I've got to put some out on my page also. Make sure you hit me up for the SportsOTHP Apparel shirts. Still got some left. Haven't re-up yet. Working on the fall line apparel, hoodies, sweatshirts, tees, and another, other selected garments that we're going to be working with Eric Kusa on. Make sure you check out the streams. Make sure you check out SportsOTHP.com. Stay tuned. We got so much more. Make sure you check out At the Bar Radio Sunday nights, 6 o'clock. We talk about a little bit of everything, sports and entertainment, some current events, entertainment, music, entertainment news. So, check us out. We're bringing it to you live, always. Sports on the Hill podcast, True Radio Network, DC Sports by the Politics. It's not just a catchphrase. It's not just a motto. It's what we do. We catch you next week. CP3 live from the lab, and I'm out.